Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm your humble host, Mr. David, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. So with that said, hi, it is 12:59 a.m. on 525 2022. It's 69 and clear, it says down here in Megs. I think it's a little warmer than that, but anyway. And I try to keep my nose kind of sort of out of, hey, Travis and Susie, happy birthday to you. I try to stay out of, political nonsense, but this really kind of cheeked my nerves tonight, this evening. Now, a lot of folks know who the Young Turks are, TYT. And way back when they first got on the internet and I was listening to them and I thought they had a different point of view and they were against the Republicans and this and that. And at the time I was a lifelong Democrat, but have been changing my opinion over the last 20 years at least. And so I get off doing a live stream with Robert V on Milky Way and the stories and so forth. And I glancing through the things, the headlines, and I'm going, it ain't even been an hour, okay? Not even an hour since Georgia has released, who's voted what, who got chosen, what, right? So Herschel Walker was a famous and still is football player from the University of Georgia. Go Dogs! And I'm not sure if he was Heisman Trophy, but anyway, hey Chloe, how are you? So he's um, as far as most people know, now I thought he had graduated from UGA, but apparently not. So okay, but what has he done? It was so 2 hours after the preliminary votes are in for the primary, not the, but they've already dubbed him one of the dumbest politicians. Now they're supposed to be like for the underdog and stuff, of the black folk, and them, and so, but within an hour of election results, they're already being racist because he's black now. If he was a white man, they wouldn't call him stupid. Okay, they wouldn't call him dumb, the dumbest politician. They don't even know yet. Okay, these are the preliminaries. So we get to know more about Herschel and whatever, but his name is well known around, in Georgia and other football things. Oh, but he was a football player, therefore he must be dumb. Okay, well, as many yards and as much stuff as Herschel got done when he was playing football, the fact that he isn't in prison or on drugs or something, and the fact that he is a Republican black man, okay, that, so that makes him a bigot as well, right? They've already made up their minds that he is some kind of, because, well, Trump backed him or some, and so now the state of Georgia had some questions before you ever voted on anybody. And the questions were like, do you think young men should participate in women's sports um, in sports in Georgia? And everybody's voting no on that one. Should they take out a 1% sales tax, blah, 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 so that they can collect $32 million for transportation down here in South Georgia. Now, transportation, what the hell does that mean? Transportation. They have tried to start a bus line, and it does serve some people, but the amount of money that they spent on the terminal and this, that, and the other thing was flipping useless. You hear me? Useless. But they spent it, splosh money, whatever. I'm sorry, I voted no on it. But my biggest thing is right out of the gate, TYT supposedly, they're, Bernie Sanders and less, progressives. And so, but, here's Herschel, a black man football player, supposed to, but because he's Republican, they've already deemed him the dumbest politician. Now, come on. I'm sorry. Does that honestly sound fair to you by these people who call themselves a news group? And I have not watched the video because I'm really upset. Okay. And I might type in something nasty or whatever. But hey, Travis. But so as far as this stuff goes, Purdue lost because the Republicans in Georgia said, because Purdue was backed by Trump, they didn't want him, and obviously Georgia said so. But those folks, Georgians who voted, and I talked to at the polls and some of the other things before today, were like, no, do we think there were hanky panky was going on during the elections last year? Yes, that was one of the questions. Also, should we have so many ballot boxes everywhere for people to just go put in a ballot for somebody? Now, for example, I want a lot of other people. And there was a question about our elections and how they should be held, and should there be a law passed and whatever, you know, um, as far as maintaining, um, proper voting for everyone. Like, there are people who complain, well, I don't need no stinking ID to go vote. Well, yeah, you do. I'm sorry. You should. You should prove that you are a resident of Georgia. And if you don't have a driver's license, you should have an ID card or something that proves that you are a resident of Georgia. If you're in Alabama voting over here in Georgia, I don't want you over here. No offense. So, and this idea of people from different counties going to another county and voting and this and that, ballot boxes, for example, where you can fill in your ballot way ahead of time and put stuff in the ballot. So guess what? Brian Kemp was ahead by this huge margin a week ago because folks have been stuffing the ballot, right? So now comes time for election day. Sonny Perdue, who was, quote, backed by Trump, has lost. But did he lose really, or was the ballot stuff? Now there's a big margin of difference. So I'm not saying that there was hanky panky there, but there's the opportunity for hanky panky. Now I've been someone who has endorsed voting since before I was old enough to vote back in the 60s. Whether the system is broken or not, there are a lot of people, the people down at the poll booth, the computer sim thing, the way it's printed out, it gets voted. I'm sorry. But here's the thing, there are a lot of people trying to make it good to where we vote and our vote does count in the precincts where they're put out, and the people who are handling the vote, and stuff like that. So the state of Georgia was rarely poor last year. A lot of people right now still got a bad taste in their mouth about that. But what we want is fair elections. That's it. Fair and honest elections. If everybody voted for Kemp and that's it, okay. But if there's hanky panky going on, I damn sure want to know about it. Is that, all these other Republicans voted for Herschel Walker for Senate, and they passed over a white guy, several white guys. but he's the dumbest politician now, who, if he beats Raphael Warnock's, which he's claiming doing good and all that, he's the Democrat. I don't know. Um, the people that we've had to represent us in the past, some of them folks in the Senate, what about Nancy Pelosi on that Democratic side that, the TYT is promoting how Nancy Pelosi and this one and that one and who's that black woman that's, so nutty, Maxine, whatever. But to the point though, so here's a guy that has barely gotten elected into the primaries, and they've already labeled him as the dumbest politician. I'm sorry, I got to call racism and bigotry on them folks. They're picking on a black Republican man, okay, who doesn't fit their norm. And I'm appalled. TYT, you young turds, I'm sorry. I'm there every day I have to go through headlines and listen and watch and see what's going on. And when I saw that tonight, 2 hours after some of the polls were in, and they've already, come on now, that just isn't fair. Whether you like the guy or not, and none of these people are from Georgia. So I would say to them folk, y'all go yourself. Because 700 and some odd thousand people, let me see, I got the election results. Herschel Walker got 777,000 votes, or 60.5% of the voters. There was Gary Black, a Republican, who the closest one, who had 151,000 votes. Latham Sadler, only 98,000 votes. Josh Clark, now these are all Republicans, okay? Josh Clark, 44,000, and Kelvin King, 35,000. Herschel has got 777,000 plus 68.5% of the vote for, those folks who were, counting the vote. So almost 800,000 people, close to 1 million voters. TYT just called them all the dumbest people in the world. And I'm just saying, do you have the right to make those kinds of suppositions within an hour of election results? I'm just baffled. For an independent news source who's supposed to be for the black man, for the this and that. Hey, Dark Lord, good to see you again, too. I don't intend to make this a long video because it's just my point of view. But for news organizations who claim that they're being progressive and that they're being this and that, and they're talking about Stacey Abrams and she's a black Democratic woman in Georgia who kill all the Republicans because she needs to be there, and that Herschel Walker, a successful black man, um, who is a Republican, who got 77,000, 60, almost 69% of the vote. But he's the dumbest politician. Now, it can't be too stupid if he got 80%, 69% of the vote. I'm just saying. Who is Frank 26? I don't know who Frank 26 is. Sarah. He's not in my district, and there are a lot of different districts and so forth in Georgia and other states too. But to my point, that 2 hours after the initial election results, he's the dumbest politician, and I got to say, them are the dumbest mofo's than people reporting this, in that they don't really know. But for whatever, they're in California or someplace out west, and they're judging Georgians on this. And, almost 1 million people who voted for him. White women, black women, rich men, poor men, people voted for him. Okay, and black people too. So this idea that somehow Georgia, I have nothing to say on the monkeypox, and I don't mean to be rude about it, Dark Lord. I just there's nothing else I got to say on the matter other than, they're trying their best to get it spread around, and I have been asking for more information. I have looked into it, but there isn't anything else to be said on the matter at the moment. Okay, and is it out there? Is people got it? Are they trying to pass it around? Yeah, that's all fact. Okay. As to what's going to happen next, I don't know. They have started some military stuff in Somalia. They have been trying to get rid of people in Somalia and Africa for a long time, and so the monkeypox is. Remember what is it? Oh crap! Something else monkey that came out of Africa years ago. Um, you know, they're trying to kill off the Africans. They're trying to kill off the Spanish. They're just trying to kill us off, and they're using different resources. I think that the monkeypox is just a novel way to, not saying it's good. Cabernet, is it true that it spreads only among gays and bisexuals? That part I don't know. If that's true, that'll be interesting. Um, I do not know about that, Doc Lord. Now, see, for me right now, that seems to be just sort of a supposition that somebody else is kind of throwing in there. Everything that I've seen so far is about people getting it. But as to if it's only limited to certain people at the moment, not sure. But here's the thing, we're also way too early into this to be making any kind of judgments as to whether it's gays or homosexuals or, we're too early into this because it has just started. So there's not enough data in. So my biggest thing that I keep getting from, um, you know, is that we need to watch it. We don't need to panic, but we need to watch it. Yeah, I'd like to get your perspectives on something. No, you're not bothering me, but I wish that I had something else to put in on that, Dark Lord. But there just isn't enough information and I'm just not going to over speculate on something that there isn't enough information on. Is it bad? It could, the rate of death and so forth. It hasn't really been established yet. Unfortunately, not enough people have died. Okay, but there are people who are getting it. So getting it and dying, that's. But to have, I remember what it was like to have chicken pox and the measles and the mumps and all that stuff back in the day. And them chicken pox was a pain. And what shingles is, and a good friend of mine that I worked with, and he was a Ford engineer. He didn't come to work one day, and he didn't come to work the next day, and then he didn't come to work the next week, and everybody said he's got shingles. And we were like, what the hell is shingles? Now this was literally 20 years ago at least. And then when he came to work and he showed me his back and this and that, I was like, holy crap. And anybody, naming me and all my brothers and sisters and all the family I know, comes from having had chicken pox when we were children. Okay. And it can pop up at any time. Now, that's just weird in and of itself. But Susie, you're right. It does not target any one group at the moment. Just let's leave that one open. On about COVID, no, it's not over, because the incidence of people getting sick after having had the shot and having had their backup, their booster, like my daughter and family down in Pensacola, they all ended up getting COVID after everything was said and done. And they didn't go anywhere or do anything. So they had both their shots, and then months later they get sick. Now, what's that about? And there are more people who are getting sick from the vaccines after the fact that were actually, the numbers are increasing so much and significantly that people are going, well, wait a minute now. The numbers are coming in. They don't want to talk about it. That the people who are getting COVID now from having had the vaccines are actually more than what they reported having gotten it in the first place. So, is it over? No. It's going to morph again. Yes. Why? Because all flu viruses do. It doesn't need any hanky panky for these viruses to mutate. It's the common sense, not common sense, um, common attributes, I would say, of certain diseases, viruses, that they will adapt to their situation. And so, is it over? No. But is this, is all this, it's not any worse than any other flu. I'm telling you, in the 80s, I had this, whatever the flu it was, that damn near killed me, here on my own property. And they weren't even giving out flu shots much back in them days, but it damn sure almost killed me. Had to go to the hospital. They hooked me up to IV for several days, and it almost killed me. So, but this now, common sense is not so common, because here's the thing: is like, for myself, I was talking about this the other day, and somebody asked me, "Am I an anti-vaxxer?" And I am for myself, and I would strongly suggest other people to really think about this before they do, because every year that I got a flu shot, I got sick. And me and my doctor of 20 something years, I finally went to her and she goes, "It's time for your, it's time for your flu shot." And I go, "No, it ain't." And so we have determined, and I have not been sick since I stopped getting vaccinations for the flu, period, on my own, long before this COVID thing. So now I've been telling people, be sure, you might just want to get this thing and ride it out versus getting the shot or whatever. And now, so my daughter and folks and them who thought they were all protected, I warned them. I warned them. I warned them. I said, "I love you anyway. I will support you." But I warned them, and they got sick anyway, months after they got their shots. So, there's too much weirdness going on because they want to make Agenda 2030 happen. And there has to be a third of the population to be depleted. They want a third of us gone, period. And they'd like a lot more of us. And they really thought this was going to, like, knock a chunk of us out. No, they're after us baby boomers, giving us meds and this and that. And I myself and other people I've talked to, the meds we took, once I got off of the meds that I was taking, I felt a lot better in so many ways. And some of the meds that they kept piling on me, I took 31 pills a day. Now it was 6 or 7 different or 8 prescriptions or whatever, but I just take a couple of ibuprofen now and whatever in my vitamins. But to the point, I'm in better health now than I was them years back. I still have issues with my epileptic type stuff. Hey, Alexander, fear weakens the immune system. Oh, absolutely. Alex, that is not true about they want mostly the native and black people gone. That is not true. No, they want a bunch of us in between now, too, because the native populations, at least of the America, is very, very small. And they've been taking care of Native Americans and getting rid of them. They don't, they're already succeeding with that. Um, and, you know, a native uprising just ain't going to happen. But there are roughly 10 times more black folk and mixed race folks, not counting Asians or Mexican or whatever, just through the black race. You know, 10 times more than all of the Native Americans put together. So, you know, that they wanted to take out a section of the population, they would absolutely head for that one. But here's the thing, they want all stupid people. Okay, hear me out. Low IQs, people, you know, but here's the thing. They want they need people like for me. I've had jobs of digging ditches, okay? And somebody said, "Why do you have that job?" Well, it was available. They pay good. And believe it or not, I don't mind digging ditches at the time. I was like, no, man, I work with these guys and they do this thing. We work down inside and we take breaks. We bullshit with each other and it's a good work day. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's shoveling. But, you know, at the time I was getting $6 an hour when minimum wage was like two. So, yeah, but you're digging ditches. Yeah, but I'm making money, you know. Yeah, but I'm, you know. So they got to have people to do the menial tasks. I mean, you know, I've worked as a plumber and I have my backyard dug up because I've got septic tank issues. When rich people, when their shit backs up, they need a plumber who might not talk right, who smells a little bit because he deals with crap all the time. But guess who they have to call when their toilets back up? The menial guy. Because you ain't going to get a robot to be able to go out and diagnose somebody's septic system. There are certain things that are going to have to be still handled by people. Okay. You get rid of all these stupid people, then who's going to unclog the shit in you rich people's stuff? I mean, seriously, you know, because they ain't going to be able to do it. They won't know how. They won't get their hands dirty. But so to the point of this, then, but they really want to get rid of a bunch of us, and it's Republicans and Democrats. It ain't one side or another. It ain't just black folk, you know. It ain't just this group. It's a bunch of us. Period. Because of the population thing that they established 20 years ago with Agenda 2030. You know. And that is, if you want a guideline as to what's going on, go look up Agenda 2030 and see what um, goalposts they have put out, and then just watch the news and say, well, ooh, they're trying to get there's where they're trying to get rid of a bunch of us. Hey, Isby, how you doing? Yeah, let's everybody say happy birthday to Susie. Happy birthday to you. You belong in a zoo. You smell like a monkey and you look like one too. Bum, bum. I love you, Susie. You know I'm just kidding. But that's what we used to sing back in the day. Let's see, Gates' wife said that Native and black people to get the shots first. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't doubt that because they him and her and their little group, they want to get rid of him, right? Well, oh, it was Ebola years ago. Remember how bad Ebola was? Oh, it's 128. We missed a 20. I thought I did. But anyway, so thanks, Isby. I will. See, back when I was getting flu shots, back before the epidemic or anything like that, all the people that I knew around my age were all getting sick. And I kept telling them, why do you keep getting the flu shot? Well, so I don't get the flu. But aren't you sick? Yeah. And what do you got? The flu. So then why are you getting the shot to not get the flu when they are giving you live flu to get build up your and so you know they're giving you the shot with a live virus to hope to see if you can overcome it, right? To see if you build up the antibodies. Well, if you don't, you get sick, and like I did several times, many times. I mean, every time flu season came, I was like, oh, holy shit, here I go again. I haven't had a flu shot in years. And am I against vaccine? This thing about the 14-year-old girls or whatever and HPV or something like that. And oh, it's so bad. No, it's all this. Listen, I think it give these young women these shots to cure this one thing. You ain't got a clue as to what else is in that vaccination or what it may do to you in the future. I'm sorry, but no, if I had a young daughter and I have a friend of mine with a young daughter and she's like, no, she ain't getting that shot. She ain't, no, sorry. She can get it when she gets older if she wants to, but no, because there's not enough incidents or cases of, oh, there are millions upon millions of young women who have contracted this and are dying from it. No, that's not the case. Do young women get it? Yes. Do other women can get it? Yes. But to the point, though, um, oh, I agree with you, Amanda. And look at the number you wrote down. 27 in reversed is a 72. So World War III is going to be fought by robots that a majority of what? Boston Dynamics has a majority of robot that will be involved. Um, Here's one thing I would like to discuss with you all about robots. Okay. And Bob, by the way, our AI friend out there in the universe, we love you. Um, oh, my brain just skipped through three different subjects. Doggone it. Oh, I've lost my whatever for the Simpson years ago. When they started, um, wait a minute, Stewie's Family Guy, right? But one of the things we have to understand that some of the people who do these shootings, killings, bombings, or whatever, they are Manchurian candidates. Okay. They have been through some kind of ultra treatment. All right. These folks ain't normal. All right. No normal person goes suddenly loses their mind. And no, these folks have been conditioned to do this on purpose. All right. They are human robots. So, oh, the robot thing. Now, the what's going to take us over are not going to be metal robots. It's going to be human robots. Okay? Because I've worked in the industry, I've worked with robotics, not high tech stuff, but machining. So you've got, um, in a machine shop, you've got this part and you put it into a milling machine. And there's a thing that comes down and the head turns and it machines it, drills holes, does whatever it needs to. And then when it's done, the coolant goes off and the doors open up and you take the part out. And it can change different kinds of tools and do different operations. And once this piece, this block of aluminum, we'll say, is set into the machine, The program knows what it is, and when it's done, the bell rings and the door opens. So those kind of robots are specific. All right. Now here's the thing: to put a robot together, all right. I mean, seriously, put another robot together is it ain't going to be robots that do it. Okay. Now, chipped people that have become robots, I'll go for that versus robots actually taking over the planet. Not man's going to have to help them somehow because there are too many small parts, little things. And here's the thing. So, for example, the um, the gyroscopic motor that would go in a robot to stabilize him, keep him from falling over and backwards, and those kind of sensors are all made in China. Okay, so what if you can't get them chips? Well, you ain't building a robot that's going to be able to stand. You follow me? So if certain parts aren't available to this robot, we're all going to die because of the robots. Um, They don't have power packs that will last. If you know a Tesla car can't drive 150 miles without needing a charge, what good's a robot going to do? I'm just saying, okay? So, and here's the thing, these robots need raw materials, all right? So, for example, they're made out of titanium. All right. So who's going to mine the titanium? Where's the titanium coming from? How's it going to get to the plant that's going to be making all of these robots that are going to take over the world? Okay. There are too many spaces in between that the robot ain't got nothing to do with it. Where are you going? You're going to dig the iron ore. You're going to dig for the what did I just say? Titanium. Well, it doesn't grow on trees. It's got to be dug, and then it's got to do this, and it's got to be processed. It's got to go into kilns. It's got to be heated. It's got to be treated. There are a lot of robotic activities that do some of these things, but there's still people involved in piecing it together. So once you get all this stuff done, then it gets on a truck, and then it goes over here. So and then it goes to another plant that makes these parts and this part. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into making of machines, period, whether robots or not. Okay. And having worked with a lot of machines in my day, they will just go nutso, and they don't have these quote computer brains and chips. They got IC chips in them and stuff like that, but it's very basic machine language, as they call it. But for it to become high tech and for these things to go off and shoot rockets at us and bullets and all this stuff, I ain't saying it can't happen. I'm saying it'll take a long time for it to happen. Could there be little spurts and things? Yeah. I am more worried, seriously, about the human robots, as Dante calls them, the Hucos and the boot chats, the Who chats. But the Who chats are the human robots. Okay, and so they're genetically, they got brains, they can actually think. They don't have to have special circuits because the human body figures out how to stand and walk and not fall over normally. And so, and you don't have to worry about parts more or less, as far as, do I have the right IC chip to go into this, motion that makes the left arm move? And well, I got to have one to go for the right arm too, and I got to have one for the, so. But if the human becomes the robot, then that changes a lot of stuff, because they can go down to the local whatever and get extra body parts. They can put metal legs and stuff, and you know artificial hearts and things. But the brain part, the one that's going to do the real thinking and comprehension, and be able to do some of the fine motor skills that it requires to put robots together. Okay, so for those folks of you, if you've been in the industry and seen the types of robots and machines and things that we have had for a long time already, but to see how hard it is for what we already have to put these things together, the idea that AIs are just going to suddenly break out of this, you know, factory and there are going to be millions of them everywhere. No. Why? Because they don't have the raw materials to make the parts they need. Simply, they don't have enough raw material. There's going to have to be robots at the mine. There's going to have to be robots that are carrying the ore out to go to get smelted, to get turned into metal, to get processed, and then it's got to be made and shaped and done. And so, all these different steps that are done by human beings with the help of machines aren't just going to take all this over. There's too many spots. So, for those of you out there who are seriously worried about the robots taking over the world, calm down. The humanity robots, the super soldier, and that kind of thing, worry about that if you're going to worry, is my point. Oh, I want a piece of cake. I got ice cream. A scratch in the house. Yep, Alex, I agree with that. And there are tests still going on with folks, and I just haven't had about monkeys escaping from a van going to the lab in New York. Oh, great. No, I didn't. But, it serves them monkeys in New York. I'm sorry. Anybody that decides to continue to live up and out and away from in this day and age, I'm sorry, but they kind of sort of walked into their own. A lot of people throat chakra is blocked. That's true. Yep, they've been mind controlled, absolutely. But here's something too, and for those of you who have followed Dante, he has showed over the years that um, and for those people who believe they're star seeds, who believe they're the native folks who know that they came from the dog star and know that the Hopi and stuff, so they know they have ancestors in space. They accept it, right? Where a lot of other folks don't. So, and what does that mean? Well, it means that we have a certain essence. All right. So my background was through the Lee side of the family. Is that we go back to Robert E. And from Robert E. Lee, it goes back into England, and then from there it jumps across the channel over to France. So technically, from the Lee side of the family, I come from France in the long run. Now, the Noll side of the family, our new acquired brother, Dennis, sent us all some, research that he found, and that the Noll side of the family were in Virginia about the same time that this one, is it a son or a grandson of Robert E. Lee, was in Virginia. But anyway, but so were the Lees and so were the Nolls. That was interesting. But the Noll side of the family goes all the way back through sort of Nordic and Germanic. And I was like, I always felt like I was a Viking or something. Well, it's more true than I would have guessed. But so our the Noll family goes back into Germanic and up there kind of thing. So interesting. So with that said, though, that's the essence of the family line. So if someone has been brought to the planet, okay, as a human, but their ancestors are from, wherever, then their DNA might look like us. There's going to be certain traits. The essence of them will be different. So, there's the Christus essence, Blash, Mokter, Anunnaki, you name it. There are essences, which means it's our history. Who was our parents? I've got a lot of Cherokee blood. So, from the Cherokee, so I'm associated naturally in that so many of my grandmother, great grandmother, great great grandmother were Cherokee. And from the Appalachians, from Virginia down Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, and now with me down here in the South in Georgia. But to the point though, so that essence of the Cherokee, the essence of the French guy that came all the way down the line, um, so that's your essence, right? Where are you from? Why does family matter? Well, it might matter in that that's the essence. Now, here's another thing. Now, I have to call her Grandma Noll, even though she was a honest to God wicked witch of the North. She looked like it. She was nasty. She did nasty things to her children and our and grandchildren. Me, all of us. And she went to mass every single day. A devout Catholic, but one of the most evil people I have ever met. Okay. And to have met all of her, my aunts and uncles, and then my cousins and all the other things, and to find out what Katherine Noll did. Oh my God, she was a cruel and vicious woman. I ain't lying now. This is, it, she should have been prosecuted somehow. Something should have come to that woman. But I think she's, the afterlife ain't doing her too well. But anyway, so even though she was supposed to be from good family, she was Catholic, there was all these things, there was a different essence in Catherine Noll than was in her brothers and sisters, or in any of us. So I believe she was planted here with some, some reptilian kind of stuff in her. You hear what I'm talking about? And I ain't lying. I have tried not to think about it, but after having met my brothers and sisters and having had chats with them last year, I would come to the belief that she just wasn't human. Period. Because no human being would do the types of things she did to her own children, grandchildren. I mean, and it went on down the line to the great grandchildren. And she was just mean and nasty and hateful and wait a minute. Um, The rest of the family wasn't like that, honestly. Her offspring, whatever, they weren't like that. So, but it was her, had to be her, because she showed us all her who she was. So, was there devil in her? I think so. She went to church every single day to try to get that evil off of her. But how she treated me, I mean, denying shelter to her grandson and her daughter 5 days before Christmas, standing in the snow with no mittens, no shoes. My feet are wrapped in socks and newspapers, and she turns us out into the snow. I mean, it's like one of the most wicked things you could ever dream. It actually happened. And I remember it. That's what's even more remarkable, but it's been verified by my other uncles and by Dolores, my mom, before she passed, and the story she told my brothers and sisters. So here's this Christian woman, Catholic, growed up all her life, and one of the most wicked people. She had to have something else in her. That's all I got to say. She wasn't human. So I believe that there are folks who can be born of a family, but not have that family's trait. All right. They might have the DNA, they might look like Uncle Joe, but they're actually could be sanctified. In other words, some might have where they, previous generations and whatever have had a decent amount of devilment in them. Here comes a person along in the family that has angel light. They're brightened with white power versus, and they look towards the light versus the darkness and cheating and greed and all that kind of thing. Germanic line. You too, huh? Native Auckland. Did I miss anybody? Assyrian race. Yeah, I don't have any of that and can't claim to it. But there are folks. I mean, I'm no, no. Some very good friends of mine are they're dead now, but um, um, I'm going back up one to see what kind of conversations I might have missed out on. But anyway, um, the Jewish folk, and there's just something about them, it, they got chutzpah, and they're like matzo balls. There's just something about it, but it's sort of like in the native communities, it's fry bread or it's something else. So in the black community that I have been, had the privilege of knowing some really great black families down here and cooking and food and family and just oh my god. So but there's something special in that line too, and um I had friends of mine who were very German. I mean, like very German. Nothing wrong with it, but their attitude was just different from the rest of us. And they, for example, like in some cultures, they have open bath houses, right? All the men go in, or all the women go in this, or the men from 2 to 4, and the women from 4 to 6, or something. And there are open bath houses, for men and women, and so there are nude beaches, there are stuff. So American values have always been very pilgrimy, right? Puritanical. And it's not that I'm about go flaunt yourself downtown with it all hanging out, but it shouldn't be against the law. I mean, because if that's all you're doing is walking down the street hanging out, that's your business. But if you're trying to provoke something or whatever, could cause accidents depending on who it was. But to the point of though that do I agree that people should be able to fornicate anywhere? No. You should be discreet. If two human beings that are above the age of consent of at least 18 want to go out and do their brains in or out between 2 or 3 or 4, who knows? It's your business as long as someone isn't forcing you or someone else to do your bidding. Okay, as long as there ain't no force involved. And if you want to play these little games and do these little things and videotape each other, then go for it. You know, and a lot of people are. I'm sorry, but wake up one day and go, "Mommy's a porn star." What? Yeah, you should see her. Wait, hang on. What? Oh, grandma's now a porn star. What? Yeah, the little gray-haired ladies. Now they're porn stars because, holy crap. I'm just saying. But the morality of certain things, it's like it shouldn't be condemned, but at the same rate with people that I've been around before, it's just accepted. There is nobody's hyped about, for example, having been to a couple of um, nudist camps back in the day. You just go there, take your clothes off, grab yourself a towel, because sitting on stuff without a towel is just, you need a towel, right? And you don't know who sat down before you. So, but the idea though that just because, folks want to hang out with nothing or barely nothing on, towel around them or whatever. And if everybody's cool with it, then why not, right? But to the point of, oh my God, it's a sin, y'all going to hell. But wait a minute, we ain't doing nothing. If I add a bathing suit to where I'm sitting, you'd be happy. But I don't have a bathing suit on. I'm covered myself with a towel because I don't want to get a sunburn down there. But the idea though that it's immodest, it's immoral, you're all going to hell. But in other countries, other places, it ain't the same. So it's the same thing about people when they're born. Some folks have certain propensities. Like I knew when my granddaughter, when she was 3 or 4 years old, I knew she was going to be a pole dancer, and she was, because she was just at that age, she was doing stuff that no 4-year-old should be doing, and there wasn't nobody teaching her. So, but there were things that were just seemed to be instinctive in her, like me doing puppets. I was doing puppets as a 5-year-old. So there are certain things that certain people have a propensity for. But at the same time, did I say hi, Scratch? I hope I did. But anyway, my point is that, there are billions of us on this planet, and there are billion different points of view and slightly different, we're all together as members of the League of Like-Minded Beings, but some people like okra and some people don't. Some people like, mush, some people don't. Some people like fry bread, some people don't. It is what it is. But so, are there reptilians out there? Yeah, but not necessarily in the way that you may think of that has been portrayed. The Flash and the Mater both could be in that category of being reptilian. Okay. So, and we've seen enough of this and that video clips of weird things coming out of the shadows and out of. I've seen some weird things come out of the shadows, but thank God they didn't seem to be anything related, right, to them. But I have met some people that I just like, whatever's in you, I want to know you, and I want to sort of be your friend because I want to know what the you're up to. I want to keep my eyes on you. You're something about you ain't right. Whatever it might be, something about them ain't right. And later on, you might find out that they're a pedophile, or they did this, or they did that, or they like killing things, or mutilations, or you know, having married into a family where the father had had sex with 3 of his 4 daughters ain't natural, you know. And how I wanted to shoot that mofo, and how he still thought it was okay for him to do it to his children. And that when the grandkids came up, his little eyeballs were like, ooh, look, youngins. And I told him, I said, if you ever touch Bobby Jean or one of the other of your grandchildren, I will personally kill you. Okay. I will take pleasure in killing you. Because I married your daughter and she's messed up because of what you did to her. And there's her sister, then there's the younger sister, and all the problems they are probably still trying to work out after all these years. But that's sick mofo. 3 of his daughters, what? Um, and mama knew about it because she wouldn't give him what he wanted. So he went down the hall to the girls' room. Now, this guy could barely read, but he knew cotton, he knew farming, he knew how to run a cotton gin. But was he a sick mofo to do his 3 daughters? Do one daughter, I mean, to even think about it. I'm sorry. And well, it's one thing to, that you might say, wow, man, my daughters are her breasts are getting really big and she's going to be a good looking woman and, hummity, hummity, hummity. But to go beyond that to like, man, I'd like to, what? So you never know sometimes what's going on right in front of you and what nasty, weird, crazy stuff's going on and who's involved in it, who's doing what with this and that. And you think everything's copacetic when it really ain't. Hi, Diane. How are you? So, I do too. Is being, I don't mean that just so I can see their boobies, neither. I think women, if guys can take off their shirts, women should be able to. Honestly, just period. No sexuality or immodesty, none of that. None of that. If they want to take their shirt off, they should be able to. That's all. Or men should put their tops back on. Why? Well, because. And back in the roaring 20s and 30s and back, the men wore the wife beater tank top things. They didn't really take all their clothes off either back then. Just saying. So even though the women were trying to get out of the long dresses and the bustles and all that kind of mess, um, folks want equal rights. But okie doke, back in the days when women were burning their bras and all that, okie doke. And there are a lot of criticism over the years. There's still criticism about women breastfeeding their children in public, and they have these little coverings, and the child, they pull their breast out. You can't see nothing. Oh my God, she's feeding her child on the bus. Well, he's hungry, or she is. The little critter's hungry, and it's feeding time. And unless you're turning around and trying to pervert me, you prevert, then how do you know he's sucking on my booby? How do you know he's eating? It's none of your damn business. And but to the point, so there's all this confusion about simply nursing a child naturally. Period. That's all. And I just think it's so silly, stupid, otherwise, beyond why are you people even arguing about this? But on the Georgia ballot stuff today was the question. Boys want to compete in the women's sports. Do you think it should be allowed? Yes or no? No. 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 Didn't say anything about transgender. Didn't say anything about tranny or thisy or any sexual. Boys, males wish to participate in girls' sports. Should it be allowed? That was there today. Did you see with Dante a couple of weeks ago? He said would not survive. Yep. I agree with you, Diane. That was creepy. That was really creepy. Yeah. And today, oddly, in having my conversation the other day or the other night about Dante, and I don't have any direct affiliation that I'm aware of. Honestly, I'm watching, I'm discerning, which he's always said we should discern and keep an eye on. And there are times when I just feel because they reposted my video years ago, I feel like there's something up. So it when I get information from my folks in dreams or whatever, you know, um, usually I'm corrected or given information within a couple of days, no longer than a week. Well, the other day, today, I woke up and it was that he's safe. And I was like, really? I'm just like, he's safe for the moment. They had to, and I said this the other night. I don't think you were on, Diane, but I said, in a war, when the enemy finds out where your home base or your HQ is or whatever, it's time to go move. It's time to move your headquarters, your motive. You got to get out of there because they know where you are. The whole point of having different places to get to, especially during World War II. The French underground and all these folks. So if somebody was there and they had places to go, but if they found you out, you had to move your shit right away. You had to get out. Otherwise, you're all were going to be bombed, killed, mass. So I don't know, Sarah. I was actually watching it. I woke up and opened up the computer and clicked it, and he had just started that live stream. I was like, at the moment, I was like wiping my eyes, going, "Whoa, that was interesting." To like catch it within 2 minutes after he started. That was weird. Um, there are some folks that, and Dante's talked about this too. There are some folks who could have reptilian in them, but it don't mean they're going to act that way. They have a conscience. They have a soul. And I've seen good people go bad. I mean, really good people go bad. And and they just get away with it and stuff. Um, do they have reptilian in them? I don't know, but could they have accepted something? Maybe. Now, them Hollywood people, they get jobs and things. They don't make it unless they play the game. They have to make concessions. They just do. It's been proven there's too much, you know, 50 Shades of Grey, the other thing years ago, but there's too much stuff out there. Randy Quaid about, that the stars are getting, bopped, and that he moved out of Hollywood because folks in his neighborhood were getting off and they were getting star whacked, as he called it, and they all claimed that he was crazy, but there were a lot of people who were dying. Do I know a reptilian? Not no. I can't swear to it. No, there are people in the news and out there in the world that have like really weird about, but I don't know of anybody. No, I know some crazy people, you know, and it don't seem like they have common sense, And where did where did your mindset come from? If it's a reptilian, is be it can't. But from what I've discerned um, from Dante is that you know his father was Lucifer, okay, but he didn't turn out that way. He's actually different, and that through time, even those who were nasty, evil, wicked, mean, and bad, and nasty, have the opportunity to change, to work for the other side, to work for the common good, and so forth. So just because you know your grandpa was Hitler, don't mean that you want to annihilate all the Jews. I'm just saying, okay. So, but then there are some people who want to kill the Jews that ain't attached to nothing, but they've got a mindset about it, and it don't go away. I know some of these folks that have gone to the mountains, and they are seriously whacked in the head. That these people are going to get you. Those folks are going to get you, and I'll shoot anybody that comes near. And like, okay, I'm leaving. See you. Have a nice day. Sarah, I'll say this. I've met some people over the years in big business and stuff that I consider myself, they weren't human, but I can't tell you that they was reptilian, but they're coldness, it makes me shiver to think about this, a particular person. I don't know if he was a reptilian or not, but he was a multimillionaire, houses here and there, several businesses. He was screwing over people left and right so he could make money. He hated Indians worse than he hate. I'm quoting him. I hate Indians worse than I hate niggers. I'd hire two niggers before I'd hire one Indian. He hated them that bad. North Carolina now. And a Republican, and he was in the old boys club, and he would go to the millionaires thing, and they would always talk about stuff. And he asked what my politics were and so forth. And when he found out that I was leaning Democrat, he goes, "Oh no, if you're going to work for me, you got to be a Republican." And I was like, "Well, okay, but I didn't get the job, and he screwed me over good, but that's how that goes. He had the money and the job and the thing, and I was that peon." But there was something not right about the guy, is what I'm saying. Oh, thanks. Yeah, this was my hat. Me and Brian we had nights where we were men with hats, and we would do a show, and he had a hat that was very similar to mine. But yeah, so I'm kind of sort of wearing it in honor of Brian because it was his birthday the other day. For those of you who know who Brian was, but anyway, so the weirdness that they're trying to put out on everybody, like the AI is going to take over. Now, artificial intelligence can get in the mainstream of things and control shit. I have no doubt about that. But this idea that they're going to be building millions of robots who are going to take over the earth, that ain't going to happen for a while. Okay, we're going to be able to see that bitch coming. All right, I'm just saying, because of all the parts that go in them that are made all over the world, that are necessary and needed, how they put them together, the articulation of certain robots and hands and fingers and stuff, they have to be a certain size where people, you can get somebody with small hands to work on things. I'm just saying. So, but stop worrying about that the machines are going to get us any day now. Okay. People that people who are acting robotic is more of a concern to me. Okay, if you see somebody that's just blinking out, and there's a famous one of Barkley. What's his first name? Anyway, he was doing a news section, and he just sat there with his mouth open, like for minutes. He just sat there like and just sat there with a stare on his face, and there's been some other people who have done that. And those people, but they've been compromised, okay? Let's just leave it at that. And if you see somebody on the news or a politician or something that's acting like that, like maybe our prez, for example, he's just senile. But one of the things that a lot of folks don't get is that when Joe lost his wife and child, I think, in an accident way back when he started his career, they gave him the option. You can become a senator and have all this stuff, but you're gonna have to make a sacrifice. And there are too many places in where politicians, someone has died early on in their career, and then 30 years later they're still in power. You follow me? I mean, look at the Clintons and all the people that died while he was, you know, um, a governor, and the things that were still going on after he became president, and after that, And if you believe that the lady out there now is actually the real true Hillary, you got to be kidding me. The picture that I saw today of her, I'm like, that ain't her. Her, I'm sorry, the cheeks and all down here is too narrow. That ain't her. Oh, but this new picture of Hillary looks like she's like 60, and she's like should be closing in on 80. Seriously, with brain dysfunctions and sunglasses and all the problems she had on that 9/11 where they threw her in the back of that van. Whoever this person is they're touting now as Hillary, come on, y'all, it ain't her. But anyway, so they're touting this stuff right in front of you. They're showing you things right in front of you. And we just need to be aware. But, if you see somebody that's acting weird or strange or, I mean, showing up, then you need to maybe like back out of wherever you may be. If it's a convenience store or a restaurant or something, you might need to like, hey, honey, let's, go someplace else. I don't think every place is like that. The thing about the shooting in Texas today, actually yesterday now, I don't want to become a conspiracy theorist right off the bat, but at the end of the school year to have a shooting so that we have the summer. Now, a false flag doesn't mean that people didn't get hurt, okay? And I'm thinking this could have been a false flag because how it's set up, I mean, on the day that there are elections going on, and on the day that, and I mean, it's too strangely coincidental what these weird ass people do, okay, to get our attention, to don't vote for this guy because, he's for guns, he's a constitutionalist. I would agree with that, Alexander. But even though Dante has suggested that there was some Azazians who went over to the reptilian side to help them out for whatever reason, but there were folks on that side who, these folks are programmed that humanity, that we're not necessarily, we're not necessary. We are just meat sacks. And I would agree in a lot of ways in that, like the old people, having worked in nursing homes, there are a lot of old people that should be gone now. They should unplug the machines and let these poor people die naturally because they're not living naturally. And oh, but it's heartless. No, it ain't. It's heartless to keep these people, on all these tubes and feeders and everything, because you're still keeping them alive. The family still wants them in. This is cruel and unusual punishment. If the person in the nursing home can get up and walk around, or maybe they're in a wheelchair and they have to roll to dinner or whatever, but they're cognizant. But if they're on life support 24/7 and barely, if ever, do they come out of their that induced world. Nah, that ain't fair. I remember when my pop woke up after being in a coma for 3 months, and one of the first things he said to me was, "David, unplug me." And I looked at him and I said, "Pops, you want me to unplug you? You just got out of a 3 months of coma." But he knew he had only come back long enough to say goodbye to all of us. But he clearly said to me, "David, unplug me." And I was like, "Pops," but. Then he shook his head. His head was on the pillow. I was standing on his left side. I mean, I remember exactly where I was and how the hospital was in the room and how he was sitting. I remember it clearly. "David, unplug me." And we did a couple of days later. And so, wherever he had been when he came back to say goodbye to all of us, he wanted to go back. He did not want to be kept in the state that he had been in for the last 3 months. The only reason he woke up was to tell us all goodbye and to say, Dave, unplug me. And but to the point though, he did. I mean, he left, we unplugged him, and that was that. But having lived it, been there, done that with three other people that we had to quote unplug, the idea that, that I look at my dad's face when he told me that, unplug me. He wanted to go back wherever it was better than being in that coma. Whatever was going on, you understand? He wanted to go back to it. So, and there was no fear in his eyes or anything. I think the fear was that they were going to they were going to keep him on the machines. And he was like, ain't going to have none of that. But 2 days later, after I saw him on that Sunday, he went into back into a coma state. And that was on a Tuesday evening. Wednesday, he was full. And Thursday of that week was Thanksgiving. So they called us up and said, he ain't here. He's pretty much passed on. We're just keeping his body alive, but he ain't here. So we all agreed. We sat around and said, we're not going to unplug him on Thanksgiving. No, 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 no. But the following day on Friday after Thanksgiving, we all met at the hospital at a certain time, and we all got together and stood around the bed. We had prayers. We said our goodbyes, and then they asked us to leave the room, and they unplugged him. But while he was plugged in, his body was doing this thing, and he was just. I was like, "Y'all unplug him now! Don't wait, please. This hurts me to watch him." And I could see him with two angels sitting up in the corner of the room, and everybody said, "Oh, stop that, David!" And I said, "He ain't in this body, y'all. He's sitting over there. There's an angel on each side. They're just waiting." And oh, Dave, you can't be. Don't be saying this stuff out loud. And I was like, "Okay, don't believe me, but he ain't in there." That's a positive. You look at that body right there, that ain't my pops. And y'all know it. So if you have any doubt, but he's safe, he's right over there with a couple of angels, and he's just waiting on us to unplug him so he can be free of this body. And we did. But so my hands on, if you will, in a situation like that with a loved one, it's really hard, but having looked in their eyes and held their hand, my granny at the same time. If you don't evolve, you keep coming back to the same lesson. I would add to that, Alex, from my own experience, in that I absolutely do feel like I was here before, but the circumstances of why I'm here this time and what I would consider a previous incarnation, I'm here this time to learn the lesson that I messed up last time because I was one mean, ornery some bitch from, around the late 1700s, early 1800s. And I lived somewhere around where I live right now. And I was a mean, nasty, you know, shoot an Indian because he's an Indian kind of thing. And I had to come back this time to learn what it means to be an Indian. Where I just went around, I supposedly had um, wow, Choctaw. That's interesting, but a Native American, half breed thing. Uh, oh, what's the word? Anyway, and I was not very kind to her, or apparently she had a child. I'm not sure if the child was mine or that it was her child, but anyway, back in the day, there was that really bad flu epidemic, and there was this and that. People were dying of dysentery, and it just wasn't easy back there in the day. And so, for me, apparently, I lived very close to where I live right now, but that I was just one mean, mean SOB. Now, early on in this lifetime, I had a lot of anger pent up in me. And some of it was due to this life, but some of it I realized later on was carried over from a previous life. And so when I started my shaman, showing up my shaman training and was sitting with a medicine man and we were going through ceremonies and this and that, I had the realization that, oh my God, I was a real nasty mother. Holy crap. And I didn't get a bit of this. I was cruel and heartless and just, whew. And so I had to get rid of anger in this life because I didn't learn it the last time. And that I had to learn what it meant to be native, Indian, or whatever. And that, I had this hatred for them and, apparently killed and maimed and was not nice. So this time around, I had to fix it. And so I had to learn what it was to be a true native for my own person to, die a good medicine death this time around. But in previous incarnations of a couple that go way back, um, I think I'm here this time to correct things for myself and to try to be a benefit to other people because I was such an asshole before, not caring about anybody and not really even myself. But, that was back in the days of the pioneers. So there's a lot of different stuff. But this time around, I'm here this time. Um, and apparently I agreed to this. Um, I don't think I read the fine print personally, and maybe I did. The older I get, I kind of have to have this thing that I did know it was going to be this rough. Now, not quite because there are some things in my lifetime that didn't have to go as bad as it did, but because I made bad choices, then I've learned these lessons that a lot of other people just have never been. It ain't their fault, thank God. They haven't been to some of these places that I've been. But for me and my journey and my soul contract, I had to have had these traumatic experiences, damn near dying several times by fire, by drowning, by heat exhaustion, and one would say almost starved to death in a way. But so they presented three of them to me over the years, the near-death experiences and other things. So, but other folks haven't had them, and I'm glad. I really am because it's a pain to submit yourself to these. Well, in a way, they're tortures, but they're ceremonies. If you want to become a member of the snake clan, then you got to get bit by a snake. You know. But anyway, oh, we missed another 20. Yeah, okay. Uh, so many dumb comments. Yeah, we in the rabbit hole. Okay, Alex, what is a life path 9? I would say Dark Lord, both holes. We in a whole WH mess of stuff because we keep going down the rabbit holes. But anyway, the whole thing is a rabbit hole. But but anyway, the cards that I drew earlier tonight. And to your point is be about manifesting um, our realities. You know, you've been to my house before, so but I'm sitting here in the living room, as it were, and there are some times where I can change my reality by sitting here doing a live stream, or I can go outside, I can take a walk, I can go down to the river. So I change my reality. I manifest a new reality simply by changing direction or making up my mind to, I want to go to the store. Well, if you weren't planning on going to the store, then you just made a snap decision. I'm going to go to the store. Okay. So instead of staying home or calling somebody, you go to the store. It's a journey, it's a thing, and it's not really what you had planned to do. All right. So you have manifested a different reality because you just simply chose to drive to the store. Well, it means a lot because that time when I told you we saved that man when his leg was cut off and his truck was on fire and all that, I was listening to my angels and they said, go to town. And I was like, nah, go to town. We went to town. We came home and the guy was in the truck and all that. But we saved this gentleman's life. And from listening to my spirit guides. So, but here's the thing though, by going to town, I manifested a different reality. Now I didn't know what the angel folks had for me to do, but my job was to save this man's life, much like the ghost where our house burned down, who literally shook my feet and manifested himself in a 3D form to speak to me and tell me the house was on fire and to get out. So my connections, God, I don't want to say the spirit world ain't really right because we coexist in this same space and time, but they're in this other dimension, right? Hey, Michelle, how are you? Life Path 9 is the humanitarian number healer speaker. I must be, Alex. I must be because I've had this desire for a long time. I just didn't dream it up a couple of years ago. No, I've had the number 9 for a long time. Number 9 for a long time. And if you watched, um, the Woodstock Festival, there was a guy he was doing a mic check, and he would go, number 9, number 9, number 9. And it was on the album, it was in the movie, but anyway, so number 9, whatever that might mean. My life path number 7. I don't know about that. Fortunately or unfortunately, um, my studies took me down this other path. Crow feather. You know, Michelle, crow is the keeper. Let me read that little bit to you, okay? Since you found a crow feather, let me. I'm going in my book here to read about crow. There's something about the feathers and the keeping of the. Um, Number 24. Crow, are you calling? so I may know the secrets of balance within my soul? Or are you sending your sacred call just to remind me of universal laws? So, since you brought it up, Michelle, Crow represents law. This is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept, she kept looking at it, scratching at it, pecking at it, until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is Dead Crow now. Dead Crow is the left handed guardian. If you look deeply into Crow's eye, you will have found the gateway to the supernatural. Crow knows the unknowable mysteries of creation and is the keeper of all sacred law. So the feather that you got from Crow represents these things. Since Crow is the keeper of the sacred law, Crow can bend the laws of the physical universe and shapeshift. This ability is rare and very unique. Few adepts exist in the world in today's world, and fewer still have mastered Crow's art of shapeshifting. This art includes doubling or being in two places at one time consciously, taking on another physical form and becoming the fly on the wall to observe what is happening far away. The Europeans that came to Turtle Island were named the boat people by Slow Turtle. Even with the knowledge of the alchemy possessed by certain boat peoples, none had ever seen the powerful shape shifting of shamans who utilized crow medicine. Many boat people were frightened by what appeared to be animals coming into their camps or their dwellings to discern their medicine. Crow medicine people are masters of illusion. All sacred texts are under the protection of Crow. Now, for those of us who have watched Dante, he's had the Book of Feathers and the anyway, but the book that was there, there's always crows involved. There's always a crow feather. And so um, all sacred texts are under the protection of Crow. Creator's Book of Laws or the Book of Seals is bound in crow feathers. Crow feathers tell of spirit made flesh. Crow is also the protector of the Ogallala or the ancient records. The sacred law belts or wampum belts beaded by native women long before the boat people or the Europeans came to this continent contain knowledge of the Great Spirit's laws and are kept in the black lodges, the lodges of the women. The law which states that all things are born of woman is signified by crow. Human law is not the same as sacred law. More so than any other medicine, Crow sees that the physical world and even the spiritual world, as humanity interprets them, are an illusion. There are billions of worlds, billions. There are an infinitude of creatures on those worlds. Great Spirit is within all these things. If an individual obeys Crow's perfect laws as given by the Creator, then at death, he or she dies a good medicine death, going on to the next incarnation with a clear memory of his or her past. Now, see, I've been asked before, you know, why am I on this shamanic journey personally? Well, I agreed to be the teacher and to be the elder and whatever, and to try to talk a little bit of sense into some people and just look at the facts. But my ultimate goal is to have fixed any karma, at least in this life, so that when I do pass this time around, I'll pass a good medicine death, meaning hopefully I will remember my past on my next reincarnation. I won't know until I get there if I do, but so my journey at this point, what do I get out of this? I just want to die a good medicine death. That's all. Nothing special, nothing fancy. Am I going to heaven or hell or whatever? I'm going back to the universe. That's what I know. And hopefully, by trying to fix the bullshit I did in this life, there are just some things you just can't undo. You can apologize, but there are just some things you just can't undo. And I've got a few of them in my life, but, hopefully, I try to do good in an odd way to offset those things that I could not change, that I, one way or the other, I was involved in or happened or partook in or whatever, due to, alcoholism and drug addiction and just being plain stupid and not knowing. But those mistakes, after many, many years, I mean, even after they're done at the time, you can't take them back. So there are things that I've done years ago just by being a silly teenager and young adult that I really wish I could take back, but I can't. It's done and over with. I just can't. If you only go by school, you're not going to get far. That's true. If you have to do your own research, you're being a life path 7, a deep thinker. I study at science in the Netherlands. I got nothing on Tesla. Now that's just funny. I think Dante said the crow were spies for them. Spies is not the best word, maybe watchers. Well, see, that's just it. In this, Diane, that they used it to be shapeshifters so that they could sneak into the enemy camps and see what was going on and to discern, figure out, to their cut and like, what are these folks up to? So, and what kind of medicine does the enemy have? So, you know, I would think of, in a way, that crow, because you can be in two places at one time. Now, many of you know I've talked about this and about um, um, astral projection and the several times that we conducted experiments and so forth. Things that I did with my grandma. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, absolutely. Yeah. I think J.R.R. Tolkien was connect. He knew something. Somebody gave him some information because when he goes back to the Turks and all that in his first book, and who's this is related to this one is related to this one, it's beyond insanity for him to have come up with all of these different families. Now, over the years, I mean, I read the books. I'll be 70 in a couple of months. So I have read the books, I've seen the movies, and I have cogitated over what J.R.R. Tolkien was writing about, and that Mordor and the great eye that sees all and can, and gets in and oh my God, if that ain't AI, I don't know what is. And the only way to kill certain things is like Dante says, is with a sword, you know. Yeah. My precious, do you have the ring? Precious. Lord Sauron, yeah. The all seeing eye. Yep, absolutely. Maybe Tolkien was remembering another life. Maybe, but I think he was given the picture to write of these other realities, the, the ethereal beings, um, Gandalf the wizard. Well, he transferred and fell into the deep pit and he came out as Gandalf the White. He didn't die, he transitioned, right? Right before our eyes. And with that came the power of the White Wizard. Where was it, Sauron in the towers? Um, that the Ents went and destroyed. I mean, they talk about the trees moving and walking and so forth. And having watched this forest grow around me over the last 40 years, it's really interesting in that, was that tree always there? I mean, I I believe more about Ents and them moving around and walking around, then some people are like, what? You believe that trees could be? Well, okay, we'll just leave it at that. But um, yeah, Harry Potter has many occult references. Yeah. More so, I think, in a way that the Lord of the Rings does. And I say that in that um, the Harry Potter, everyone is learning and is at school to learn this, where in those great ages, they knew that there were certain people that had these magical powers, like wizards and Gandalf and this and that, but not everybody studied it, not everybody knew it, not everybody wanted to participate. Whereas in Harry Potter, it's like, whole clans and families and everything is all learning about this. Spells and the incantations and all that were agreed, but in the Lord of the Rings, it's more specific, you know. Um, I was going to say Frodo, but not Frodo, but oh come on, the first Hobbit. Anyway, so he's down in with Gollum, and he's in the caves with dragon Smog, and he comes upon the ring. So, but I know there are things in the magical world, if you will, but the idea that those of us little sibling folks down here that haven't had the proper training, you know mantra. But so crow is law, so with a crow's feather you could bind the law and protect it from anybody getting in and doing whatever. 2:47 a.m. here on 5/25 2022. This is David Noll at 2:47 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We are going to have a short break discussing crow. And I know this is way off topic from Herschel Walker, but when he was playing football here in Georgia and all, there are claims out there that he beat up an old girlfriend or an ex-wife or something. He didn't really graduate from the University of Georgia, and that he's the dumbest politician already on the block. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy ain't even had a chance to make a speech yet. Magically, Dark Lord, and they just decide to go there. Um, so this idea that the young turds have already determined that he's the dumbest. Am I wrong in saying I think they're being racist and um, what was the other word? And bigots? Yeah, tree beard. Yeah, I don't know, Dark Lord, how they move, but I have had some serious conversations with some trees, and I'm talking about 200-year-old trees. that are on my property and other places too, up in the mountains, but having serious, literally sit down meditation with some very huge trees. Oak, pine, they all got their own. Trees moving ironic. I'm seeing them shake for no reasons. Yep. Hey Dave, what you doing, Mr. Castle? In your castle way up high? There's a song I was saying, in your castle way up high, doodle doodle, something like that. Anyway. Um yeah, I got a lot of trees on my property. I got 18.5 acres, as y'all know, and most of it's in some kind of trees. So I got maybe 2 acres that are actually open. If you can't between trees and stuff, they're, you know, maybe 2.5 acres open. But the rest of it's forest. And so there are different types of trees, and there's certain areas back in the woods that there's a there's no oak trees, but there are several really old pine that are clumped together on this little rise where when the water comes up, there's water all around. Why now, Dark Lord? Because they want to finish Agenda 2030. Why? That's it. If you know what 20 Agenda 2030 is, they set a goal for the world population and they ain't anywhere near it. And so why monkeypox and why I mean think about when the Ebola scare, all right? Did it ever make it here? No. I ain't saying that monkeypox won't or that they've got this and that because these people are nuts, okay? They are not human beings. We have to keep that in our heads. The people who are doing these things to other human beings are not human, okay? Period. If they're trying to wipe us out, they ain't human because humanity would not do that to itself. So, I mean, for a lot of people, it's like, well, what do you mean? It's so complicated. Look, it's us against them, period. They've already decided they want to get rid of a bunch of us. They're making plans and they're working them out. Problem is that the good guys have stepped in and, kind of halted some things and brought things out in the open. They're going to try another lockdown, Dark Lord. I mean, if you knew of some of these places down here in South Georgia, I mean, there people are wearing masks everywhere and they're scared to freaking death at the moment. And then you drive down the road 20 miles and nobody's got a mask on. Everything's okie dokie. People shaking hands, giving each other hugs, and then 20 miles down the road, in another little town, everybody's wearing masks and everybody's scared to death, and they, keeping their distance. You know, fear has taken over in places and little notches and pockets and things and stuff, and in bigger cities too. But then there are folks who are trying to, you know, promote their agenda. Now, I live literally 70 miles from Tallahassee. I'm closer to the Florida, Florida border than Tallahassee. But to the point though, so just a few miles down the road from me, nobody's wearing masks. It's DeSantis, it's Florida, everything's open and blah, 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 blah. Belgium already with monkeypox quarantine. Holy crap. We'll see. I ain't, I know the people don't want it. The vast majority of people, and they were showing the other day, night, um, I believe it was in Hong Kong, where they've got the really tight lockdown and people have their apartment buildings that were 15, 20 stories, that opened their windows and were hanging out windows with pots and pans, and everybody was clanking their pots and pans together against the side of the building. And I was, because they weren't allowed to get out of the building, so they couldn't communicate. So this is just the other day or today or yesterday or whatever. But so here's all these Chinese folks, they're fed up with it, you know. And so if opening up their windows in their apartment buildings and clanging pots and pans, but they're telling the world we've had enough of this. Okay. So their regime change and all that. Well, but here's the see, here's the reason I would say that, Dark Lord, about spreading slowly is because there are fewer people that travel in and out of Africa versus travel in and out of China or the South Pacific or Europe or other places. They're just fewer, okay? Not that they don't, but just fewer. So if it's originating in Africa, it's going to take it a while to get out unless they're very specific with, you know, how releasing the virus. Because see, they don't need a monkey. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know enough about it, but say for example, here's monkeypox, and there is a pus situation, right? So that you scrape the pus out, or whatever juices or whatever the contaminant, and put it in a tube, right, and put a cap on it. Now you have a very viral a very viral um, tool that could possibly kill or whatever, or and so what if you have this vial of drool or pus or whatever, and that you just took it with you, and then somewhere that you went, you like just put it, put a little dribble on, the faucets at the airport, or a bus station, and you took a little couple of dribbles and you put it on a toilet seat or something. I mean, but to the point though, that you just had this vial of slobber or whatever, and that you just drop little pieces here and there, right? And that have these live active viruses in them, and see how people touch them, put them on their hand, put their hands on their face, to the point so they don't actually spread it with monkeys. Okay. So it could be, they've got these, it's been proven, they've got these little things that, these little injectors. So it feels like almost like a mosquito bite in a way. And somebody could walk by you in a terminal and hit you with one of these little, you're pressed close together, somebody walks by and just hit you with one of these little tings. And it's got just enough of this monkeypox in it that, depending on your DNA, would either just jump all over you or it would slowly progress. Okay. So some people are like, if you, I'm just saying, if you have an A type blood, it could work this way. I think I have B. So for me, it wouldn't work quite the same as somebody with A or O, plus or minus, positive or negative in that. But to the point though, so different blood types could be affected by any virus, right? So O is the most uh, is generic versus A, B, or AB. Um, so if you wanted to kill off a large portion of the population, you would move something into the area that would cohabitate and live with the most popular blood type, which would be O. So, not to say that they ain't trying to take us out with other types of it, but they're using your mind against you. Placebo shows we can heal ourselves with just thought. And the nocebo effect is when you think you have cancer and you manifest it yourself. I believe that. Yeah. I've seen, I have manifested in myself ailments. So I know that's possible from that side. They have had shots for this for years. It's time to spread fear. Again, it's all they have to jack. Yep, I agree, Deborah. I absolutely do. Yeah, they do manipulate the numbers a lot. And here's one of the things that we just, by golly, we just got to consider it. Remember what they've done to us the last 2 years with Fauci and company and all them people. And we're finding out now that, like, family members of mine and friends who had the shots and the boosters all got corona anyway and were very sick for 10 days after their shots. After it's all supposed to be up. Just saying. So for those of us who said, "Nah, I don't think so," they missed a large portion of the United States population. Also, uh, for whatever reason, that they screwed the numbers on that one, how many people were actually dying. So they have been screwing, hey, Miss ST, they have been screwing with the numbers. Pearl, I thought that was you. Yeah, I had a good friend of mine who was in the army back in the days of when they were going down into Panama and when Reagan was president and stuff. And they injected him with some stuff to go down in the jungle and everything. And it gave him diabetes at the young age of like 28. And I met him when he was about 32 or so. But he died before he was 40 because of his diabetes that was given to him by the Army because he was a 1 in 10,000 who would have a bad reaction to the, guess what? To the shots they were giving them, to the vaccines they were giving the U.S. soldiers who went into Panama and the jungle fever and whatever. So, but he had other guys within his unit, patrol, something anyway, that all got sick in a similar way. But he got sick the worst. And, it was his diabetes at an early age that conked his brain out and he had an accident. There was he he worked on CT scanners for the hospitals down here. There was an ambulance in front of him and an ambulance behind him. Raining, not real bad, but the road was slick. One of the and I used to go with him to work on the CT scanners. And the the guys in the back said he just swerved and went off the bank and across the little ditch and hit a tree, just like that. And they were right behind him, and they couldn't save him. They were right. You can't get angels any closer than being between two ambulances, and he still died. But anyway, sometimes when it's your time to go, no matter who's standing around you or whatever, it's there you go. But um, he was an example, along with some other people that I've known who were in Nam who had shots and inoculations and who had been on covert activities down in Panama. Or my computer is doing something weird and I don't know what it is. Hmm. Two dead and one has heart trouble from the shot. Oh, really? Yeah, there's some other folks too that are I know someone in a family member or something, and so COVID ain't done yet. But I don't think they're going to have to release another version. I think it's already there. The second dose that was given to everybody, I think the first one was just uh, to get it going, get it in the system, and the second shot, that booster, was to make sure that whatever was there was going to do what it was supposed to do. Sort of like mixing, um, epoxy. So they gave you the first epoxy in the first shot and the hardener, if you're looking at it that way, in the second shot, because most of the folks that I know only got sick after the booster shot. So, but those numbers ain't coming out right neither. But a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are sick, and a lot of people are talking, just under their breath, like, why ain't nobody talking about this? We've had our shots. How come my aunt got sick? How come my brother's friend, almost died from it? He had his shot. Anyway, so they ain't talking about that. But it is happening. So the Princess Corona, that Dante talked about, she has been loosed upon the planet. I would agree with you, Alex. There probably is a patent. I would bet you. For whatever it is. Alex says everybody chose their path. Some need time to learn and grow. That's been a question of mine, and I just want to kind of toss it up there. Not that anybody has to answer, but if they die in ignorance, they won't know it. If we see that they die because of their ignorance, we're the observers and we'll see it. But if they die in ignorance, they're just going to die from their standpoint. Okay. I mean, I know I'm nitpicking, but so in this awareness of things, so if people, are like, well, it's going to be like this. Well, not necessarily. Because, for example, the medicines and things that I was on from legitimately from the doctor, 31 pills a day, and 7 or 8 or 9 different kinds. So, not doing that anymore. So, and I'm older and ornerier and some would say maybe crankier, but I don't feel as cranky. I'm maybe more a little dead set in my ways because I just don't like putting up with some kinds of bullshit no more, and it just like, don't even show that to me, please. But it's like, man, oh man. So there are folks who are surprised that there's monkeypox. I'm not. They've been developing things on the side because they hate them black folks in Africa. They really don't like them black folks in Africa. Okay. Let's just put it out there. They don't like them. Now, of all the countries on this planet, there are tiny little islands with only 1,000 people that have more going for them than the whole countries in Africa. Okay. Because it's still very tribal. It's still the jungle. It's still this. It's still. But for whatever reason, you know, certain technologies just ain't there. And some of them are simple technologies. And people going over for clean water. And so there are things that Africans just don't have. Now, why not? Why aren't, the continent of Africa being more together? Because they don't have like a president of Africa like they have the president of the United States, or Canada, or Mexico, or Brazil. So there isn't a president. There's no one to keep the whole continent going. So they've been picking at places in Africa for a while, testing stuff out on people. I mean, back, for those of us who I hate to recall it, but when there was the Mombasi and whatever, and they would just literally walk down the road with a machete and lopping people's heads off. Just like, whoop, he's a tutu, and anyway, and whacking each other's heads off right on the street. Thank God we ain't got that. The Hitsu and the Tutsi or something was very less in Africa. Yes, yes. Why? Because there's not the type of transportation. There isn't the same kind of everybody's going out and going to restaurants, and they don't have the same kind of infrastructure. Like during the Clinton years, at the end of Bush one, they told everybody that the United States was, and they lauded it out loud, that the United States was going to be a service country, that we were going to serve other people, that we were going to service refrigerators and radios. That no, what they meant was they was going to kick out all the good jobs, and we was all going to be serving food at Hardee's or Arby's or Golden Corral or several places that had gone out of business. Damn it! Well, ain't nothing wrong with restaurant business, but there's so many restaurants and places to eat and stuff out there now compared to when I was a kid. There's like 10 to 1. There's 10 to 1. In Thomasville, there's restaurant right beside each other, in this 2 mile stretch of highway. And actually, in a 1 mile stretch of highway. And people, choosing this one that and don't care. Huddle House, Taco Bell, and then there's a Longhorn, and then there's this one, there's a Catfish House, and then there's IHOP, and which I love. But so in this restaurant row, there are other places all over Thomasville, but it means that there are people who are washing dishes, waiting, doing. They're all service oriented jobs. They don't make anything except sandwiches and lunch. I mean, But as far as being productive, when they said back in the early 90s that the US economy would become a service economy, they did it. They have conquered that one. And if people say, no, we do have industry, but I've seen industries disappear that I worked for back in the day that are literally gone. If you didn't live here back 25, 30 years ago, you would not know that any of these companies even existed, what they built, how many people were employed, what money was involved, none of it. So there's this entire history of down here in the South that's just gone. Sewing machine operators. There used to be sewing machine factories all around here. The people that worked on the sewing machines, the people who did, we were talking about it today with some friends of mine. I said, back in the day, tobacco was huge business down here. The warehouses, the people, the trucks, the loading, the this, the growing. I mean, and it's all gone. There's very little bit of tobacco grown around here anymore. Where it was in the top millions of dollars for South Georgia in this area, totally gone. Way back in the day, they grew a lot of sugar cane around here. The town of Cairo, consequently, Cairo syrup, but they're also known as the Cairo syrup makers. Why? Because 100 years ago, there used to be huge factories around here with giant bricks, smokestacks. They've all been knocked down. And there, two or three of them was right around Meg's. I think I mentioned this earlier, but so there was all of this syrup that they made around here that was local. It was natural. It was, 100-year-old commercial business around here. Ain't none of it here no more. You can't even tell it used to be here. So, changes have been going on here in America as far as who's going to be doing what and where and for how much money and all that. Hey, ST, uh, blessings right back to you. Hey, Lady Spirit. Um, yeah, I think Bob's on, I think they gave him a tranquilizer, Isby. Oh, it's 3:14 a.m. So I'm going to, a lot African president stood against, yeah, for one, a goat and a fruit and got positive. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. But see, that's my point. So there's nobody that's anywhere nearby or anything um, that there is no cohesiveness in Africa uh, because of that. You know, malaria pills. Yeah. Going back to a question Dark Lord asked about why don't they like Africans? They consider them a subspecies. Plain and simple. They are a subspecies. Why? That's just the way they look at it, you know. I mean, for a long time, the United States written into law that you know, a Negro man was like worth was had the value of 1/3 of that of a white man or something like that. So it took three Negroes to equal one white man as far as how they looked at it back in the day. And I mean, in the 60s, the civil rights movement and everything, people forget blacks couldn't vote until the 60s. Well, all this and all that. No, 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 back up, y'all. Back that bus up, you know. But some of these same black folks, though, are saying anybody can vote without any kind of identification. No, I'm sorry, but just no. Oh, but anybody should be able to vote if you're a resident of the state you're in and if you have proper identification. It ain't that hard. But the fact that they say no, because there are a lot of Mexicans around here and they ain't citizens and they ain't trying to get their card neither. But a lot of Mexicans, a lot of farming going on, a lot of this and that. But I don't have a problem with them because they work, they pay their bills, and they stay under the radar. But they still have ICE raids down here for Mexicans and other folks too. I mean, found out that there were some illegal Russians living in town that were going to one of the local colleges and Thomas University. And it was like, what? Yeah, the illegal Russians. Now, what they were doing here and whatever, I mean, what are they doing in Thomasville? Don't know. But Thomasville does have an underground base, the city limits on the south side of town. 37,000 square foot of FEMA camp underground. It's there, you know. So, what are the Russians doing here? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get into that space out there. Who knows? Of minerals. Yeah, exactly. Um, I think it's Ethiopia that's got one of them that's like for the batteries and everything. And yeah, they got some rare minerals over there. You betcha. And since, folks in the United States, they get pissed off about open pit mining and stuff and, strip mining of the mountains for coal and stuff. And yeah, okay. But in Africa, ain't nobody there to complain. And they just shoot them darkies to keep them from, getting in the way. and any animals or anything else that gets in the way, and they just go about their business and just don't care. So, oh, three, oh, they were, okay, Pearl, they were 3/5. I knew there was a three in there. Yeah, years ago when I studied that, of course, when I was at Tampa Catholic in the 60s, we had black kids in our school, and were integrated in, even the public schools were pretty much integrated, and there wasn't a lot of fighting in Tampa. We all kind of, there were places, and there are still places in Tampa and Ybor City and 22nd Street down there I would not go to this day. Talk about a rough neighborhood. I've been to South Side Chicago, and it has become similar to the South Side of Chicago, Tampa. And so there are these areas and all across the planet, around towns and stuff. And the mindset of the people who live there, I just don't get it. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he was like, he goes, and some places, he said, I get along with blacks really well, but some places you say hi and they want to pull a knife on you, or there's no way of being nice around some of these folks because I'm white and they're not. Then they automatically look at me as a threat or something. And, what do I do? How do I get across to these folks? I just want to say, hi, how you doing? Um, that we can get along and all this. And if, they don't even want to hear it. You can't talk to them kind of folk. You just have to smile, be very ginger and polite, but keep any interaction to a minus. Why? Because they don't want to interact with you. Case in point, when I was in Albany a couple of weeks ago, in a store, black men, mostly black people in the store. Not a problem for me. I'm just in there buying gas, right, and getting a soda. And the guy in front of me is taking literally for flipping ever. And he wants a can opener. Finally, after 10 minutes of, well, do you have any of this? Well, no. Well, let me see. Now, well, do you have any of these? No. Well, how about some of this? Well, no, he's standing at the counter. He's the only one there. And I'm like, holy Jesus, can you like just step aside a minute? Let me pay my $10 for gas and you can come back in. So, but anyway, so he he needed a show enough a can opener. And or no, I'm sorry, bottle opener. And he was turned kind of to the side and he could see me. And I said, sir, I said, you look, close enough to age like me. I said, we used to open bottle tops with, our hand in the back, and the bumper of a car, kind of trying to junk it around, and that, if you wanted to open a bottle cap, you could use a pocket knife and flip it open. But he looked at me, he's like, I wouldn't use anything like that. And I was like, ooh, so much, don't say nothing. So now he gets done. I pay for my gas, same station. I walk out the door. And as I'm walking out the door, there's another black man outside at the pumps. And he goes, hey, man. He goes, something about Whiskey River. And I was like, what? So, there have been folks that say I look a lot like Willie or whatever. I could pass for him. And so he was making reference to me looking like Willie Nelson. So, here's one guy that won't even talk to me. And here's another guy that's hollering across the pumps. Hey man, hey Willie, how you give me a tune here? And he was just laughing and joking. So from one black person to another, same city, same store, same kind of situation, acting totally different. One guy I'm like goofing and laughing and hollering. Don't know this guy from Adam. The other guy in the store, I'm just trying to be polite and I'm saying something about, yeah, we used to just pop them bottle tops. Mind your own business. Rah, 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 rah. Ooh. So totally different. Same town, same neighborhood, same two separate different people. And by now get this. I was put off by the guy at the counter. So when I got outside, and I hear this black man hollering at me across the islands where the gasoline pumps are. Oh, I missed it, didn't I? 24? Or is that a 14? Anyway, time for a bowl. Oh, it is 24, 324. But so my answer to this guy was like, it's like you never know. Whoever the person is, white or black, wherever you are, whether it's up north or down here in the south, I've lived down here now for, most of my life, around Moultrie and everything for the last 50 years, 45 years. And I've had very few incidents of issues with black folk of any kind. I've been to parties where I was the only white person. I've been, but to that point though, other white people couldn't do what I did. Puppet shows in the middle of Northwest Moultrie. Ain't a white person around for miles, and I'm there by myself with puppets and equipment, and nothing ever happens. The nice elderly black women sitting on the bleachers and in chairs and stuff. They go, Mr. Dave, you ain't got nothing to worry about. We got you covered. If you need to go to the bathroom or something, go get your drink. We'll keep an eye on your stuff. And they always did. They always did. I was always protected. And I'm in white man in the black section of town, and I'm always protected. But there were blacks in the same neighborhood that were not near as nice that would start trouble even with their own neighbors. What you standing up for that white boy for? Because he comes to our neighborhood once a year and makes us laugh. You leave that white boy alone. That's what lady say. You leave him alone. You better leave him alone, or I'm, And I was like, I would not have messed with that lady. Let me tell you. He was some punk ass 16, 18-year-old. What's he doing here? And blah, blah, blah. And they set him straight, you know. Now, have I just been lucky? Have I been blessed by the spirits? I think it's my attitude. I'm honestly, because I just smile and try to greet. And so that whatever my aura is, there are people who can look at me in the eyes, they can see my face, they can watch my expressions, they know me by my actions, which is very important. So, but there are times when, like in the store example a couple of weeks ago, being nice to one guy and trying to crack a joke did not work. Where outside I was singing, you know, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain out there while I'm pumping gas because this other black gentleman was just having a ball with me looking like Willie Nelson. And I was getting off on how he was laughing and carrying on. I was like, man, this is great. You want to go have a drink? I don't drink, but I'll buy you one. So, but, you know, night and day, two black men, roughly about the same age, just by appearances, but totally different reactions to some white guy, you know? So we don't know. And we have to take each one of these because there are white people that are just as bad as that, or worse in some cases. And yes, the Ku Klux Klan is alive and well, but they ain't burning crosses, nor are they, hanging people. But here's something that they have done: they have kept black folks out of certain areas of the county because white people own the property. That's that. Farms, small acreages that used to belong to families bought up by larger farms. So, where the black families worked for some of these plantations and farms and got paid well. Now, it wasn't like some kind of bit of slavery. Their free housing, the house might not have been that good, but they were paid well, had food, they had gardens, they were kept well. And not as they kept nigger. Okay, this is what they weren't like house niggers. Okay, and I use that word specifically because that's what they called them. No, these were folks that took care of the horses, took care of the feeding, fed the cows, they did the planting, they did the mowing, they did the work and were respected for it, and sometimes got paid better than white people doing the same job on another place. They traded their hoods for ties. Yes, ma'am, they did, Miss Pearl. And here's the thing, so they control the situations through how they control property, business, neighborhoods, patrolling. I mean, I have still got a gripe with the city of Moultrie. You see, Alex says, I understand not all blacks are the same. Some blacks don't like other black. Yeah. Yeah, Uncle Tom. Yeah. Alex, I agree. And one of the things that there are black folk that I've known, families and people I respect. I mean, over the years, but there are some of these idiot blacks that are out there now going, "We got these rights," and all you white people, hang on, hang on. You were sold into slavery by your own kind off the ivory coast of Africa. Say that again? Yeah, it was black people selling black people. It wasn't white people selling black people. No, 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 no. There were white traders going over, but there were black captains with whole crews that sold slaves to the Jamaica slave trade and so forth. I was in a pre-production of this movie they wanted to make in Tallahassee, and they got a bunch of black folks together, and I was one of the white men, and I was making statements and reading that which in the late 1600s, early 1700s, when they were bringing slaves in, show enough, about how the slaves should be treated, how the men should be treated, how the women should be separated, how white men should impregnate X amount of black women so that they have a mulattoed, so they would let these light skinned into their houses, because if they had white blood in them, then they would trust them in the house, but they would never let them, show enough. But here's the thing. So these folks have forgotten who sold them to the whites to begin with. It was your own kind. It wasn't all the white man. Okay. No, it was your brothers in Africa that sold your ass over here to begin with. Now let's start there and quit this racism thing. They're the reason you ended up here, not us. They were selling you as a commodity. And we were like, sure, okay, we'll buy them. So, but anyway, um, I said, Jimmy, you ain't gonna wait. Yeah, the true Uncle Tom, he was a gracious old grandpa, and uh, they they kill my dog. They take in the way they tell me you ain't got nothing. You've been there. Don't. In the Texas, they say they're going to be in Alabama. Yeah, I mean, I've been bought and sold several times. So, but folks want reparations. I mean, there are still some of these new age black folks that I'm like, come on, stop it. I knew your parents, for God's sakes. They got over it and they couldn't vote. All right. So you got vote and all these privileges and everything, and you still bitching at us white people? Cut it out. Stop. Did you know that, back to Africa? Well, that ain't true and blah, blah, blah. Morocco was the country that was the slave traders. That was one of them, but further down the coast, too, they're Guyana. Anyway, the 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 play slash movie that they were making, the history was from along in the Ivory Coast, which was further south, and where they actually had relatives that had went back to there and came over, and so the story in the movie supposedly was made, but I have not heard it of it being out. But anyway, all black cast except for me and one or two other white people, because we had to be the slave traders. But it was a very interesting. I thought I knew a pretty decent amount about it until I got into that project with them folks, and oh my God, I was like, seriously? And I had to, my part was to play one of them grumpy old white men from, down in the islands who had went over and was negotiating how many slaves to get and so forth, and how to bring them into Jamestown and how to use them for the tobacco. And it was very, very eye opening, because the things that I was reading and the character was portrayed from was from real documents and real facts, and the slave trading and uh, it, they had different names. I can't, but anyway, but to the point though, uh, you know, there were a lot of black folks who got really rich off of them stuff, but they didn't live here. Yeah, they call it human trafficking now. Yeah, that was a big mistake, Lady Spitfire. But in a way, and I voted for him the first time, and I can't remember who I voted for the second time, but I did not vote for him the second time because of what they was already mixed up in. But I thought, let's go ahead and show the world that we, quote, America, are over this racist shit, and that we can elect a black man who happens to be gay because his wife obviously has this thing between her legs. It's about this long, slinging around. And obviously, as the lady who died, Joan Rivers, she's a tranny. Get over it. We do have our first gay couple. Oh my God. So not only were they black, but there was also gay transvestite thing. None of us tried to blow them up, shoot them, or otherwise, right? Um, but they can't put up with Trump, Anyway, um, so this idea that somehow the United States is still backwards, and that we're still bigots and racist, are like, wait a minute, we let two men take over the White House, for God's sakes. Two black men, in the White House, in the White House, and they turned, never mind. And some of the stuff them two did while they was in office too, with children and stuff, you just got to scratch your head and go, I mean, what? Yeah, the Irish, yes. And also the Scots, too. There were a lot of slaves that were not black. I mean, there's a slave trade. I've talked about this for several years now, but and it's the Chinese slave trade that's happening right in front of our eyes. Now, what I mean by that is they have several lovely Chinese restaurants in Thomasville and in Moultrie too. And, I'm so glad that, that my favorite one is still down there in Thomasville. But here's the thing. So I learned this over the years in one place I used to go for lunch almost every day because they had a beautiful buffet. So I didn't have to eat the same thing every day, but it was Chinese. But it was, $5 a meal and all you could eat. And anyway, so one day here's a beautiful Chinese lady that is now my waitress. And I sit basically in the same table, about the same time every day. And, it's a thing. And so she comes to my table. How you doing? And I could read on her name card who she was, and I would speak to her. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of being in there, several days, how are you here? And I'd seen her at another table, and she was studying math or something. And I say, oh, what do you? I'm an engineer. I'm working over here. And so, what are you studying? Oh, well. And as soon as she started to tell me, there was somebody from the back of the restaurant that ran to the table and blocked her from speaking to me. And I was like, hey, what you doing? And I said, I'm just talking to the waitress. Very nice lady, nice service. I like your food. Oh, you go back, you go back. And so what I found out was that they bring these women and men overseas and oh, they are indentured servants. Indentured servitude is still going on. It's still slavery. They bring them over, they pay for their whatever, and they do this. They can hardly speak English. It's getting better now because this is a good 10 or 15 years ago or more. And so come to find out, so the Chinese, much like the Mexicans do, but the Chinese send family members over or somebody, and they're indentured. So it could be a 5-year contract, a 10-year contract. And I found out this from the girl who was working at the restaurant. She go, I have 5 years. I must work here, and then I can go to school, and then um, and I was like, really? And then the next she got caught again speaking to me, even though she was like slipping words to me. I found it very interesting. And um, the next time I went in, she was gone and never appeared in that restaurant again. They switched her to another restaurant because she was getting too involved personally with the local. And just by what little bit it was going, they saw it as um, well, maybe that I was a spy because they knew what they were doing was wrong. So if one waitress might work at the same restaurant for a year, if she don't talk to nobody and keeps to herself, and then one day you go in and she just ain't there no more. Well, where's Miss Shaw at? Oh, she gone. Well, she coming? No, she gone. And that's that. Nothing else was said. But she served her year of servitude. And that doesn't mean she gets to, free reign. She might have to go work for somebody else for so X amount of time. And they're not allowed to be social. They have to stick within the family. They stay within the restaurant. It's very structured. And that's going on right now. Okay. Not just Chinese restaurants, but also um, the um, Mexican restaurants. A lot of it going on down here in the South. So, and they're slaves. They are. They don't have chains around them, but they might as well be. Today's World Tarot Day. So my take on this, there's too many whites and blacks down here that live together, that the neighborhoods that were segregated before are now commingled. There are uh, there are heart doctors that are black. There are dentists, and there are from other countries that have moved here. They're Indian, Pakistani, Chinese. I mean, we got all kinds of folks down here from all over the place. And one of the best doctors I had was from India, um, Krishnamurti something anyway, but years ago. But he went somewhere else. But he was a very nice doctor and a good man and lived here in Moultrie, and him and his family, and personable and all that kind of stuff. And but he ain't here. But to the point though, so there have been people from around the world here as doctors, lawyers, nurses, or whatever. And now there are folks, one of the ladies, she was running for Secretary of State, Nguyen Jen or something like that. I mean, she's not from around here. I mean, she may be born here, but her name isn't. It suggests possibly Thai or Japanese. I can't distinguish, but the name looks Taiwanese, Thai South. Anyway, but for Secretary of State here in the state of Georgia, I don't care. Is she adequate? Does she think well? Is she good on her feet? I mean, can she speak 10 words in a row without messing them up? I mean, does she know what Secretary of State needs? I mean, just the basic things that today is. This is the most important day of the year. I used to do tarot years ago, but now I use um my animal cards. There you go. Arman, did I get that right? I remember. I don't want to put my glasses back on. They're smoking up. How you doing? Um, yeah, I've got a little bit left in here, but we've now it's 3:47. I done missed that 20 mark 20 minutes ago. So for me, and having a conversation with some other folks, and tonight with Robert too, I was like, with all this stuff that's going on, I think I have more hope for humanity now than I did before. And simply because whether or not we're all getting along, whatever, there are people who are at least aware that, we can get along. And there are those of us on, there's not two sides of the camp. Okay. I mean, with all the different Mexicans, there's Venezuelans here in South Georgia. There are folks from, Argentina and Brazil around here. They're quote Mexican because they speak Spanish, but they ain't from Mexico. But they work in different areas and so forth. So they're here too. Um, Now here's the thing. They do live here in Georgia. And I don't know if they actually have a valid Georgia driver's license, but if they've lived here long enough, should they be allowed to vote? Well, some of these people have been part of the community for 10 years and respectable and haven't been in any trouble and all this kind of stuff. So I scratch my head and go, why not? But then there are folks who ain't been here 6 months that think they should have the rights of all of us Americans who were born here and or at least naturalized. No, but they're here 6 months and they want it all. And in a lot of ways they get new phones, they get transportation, and and then they get away with it. But Um, I tell you what I do before I get out of here this morning. I'm going to pull a card or two. Not necessarily for any one particular person, because sometimes I pull cards for like today's message is, you know, and today's message earlier was, but I'm sorry, Dragonfly, that deals with illusion and illusion in our lives and around us. And so the next card was Fox, which means camouflage, and that some of us are too camouflaged. Some of us have become wallflowers when we shouldn't be. We should actually be participating, at least some. But some folks, out of fear or whatever, they just stay hidden all the time. And that's not necessarily good. And then the last card that I pulled earlier was Wolf. And um, strengthen that family, the pack, and also being able to discern, things. And so, Maximus, how you doing? I ate them beans and I've been farting. Beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So let's the beans at every meal. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know beans, 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 beans. Eating goober peas. Lordy, how delicious eating goober peas. Life greetings with life's flavor. Oh, it could be a flavor also. Hey, Regina, how y'all doing this morning? Almost 4 o'clock in the a.m. So, I've been kind of asking yesterday and today, what kind of message, you know, do people need in general right now? Maybe a personal, but what do folks, in general, without getting too specific. So I got my cards here, my animal cards. And because it is National Tarot Card Day, these are not tarot cards, but they are not necessarily fortune telling, but spirit cards. So anyway, they're telling me I need to shuffle. Well, I shuffled earlier. Does it really matter? Because see, I don't get it. Why do I need to shuffle these things when they've been sitting here for the last 2 hours? They ain't been doing nothing. I don't know where something is. I always, flitter through the cards. Uh, anyway, sometimes though, uh, the card's upside down. And so I read both the regular normal, what like wolf is about, but now what does wolf mean upside down? So now I'm doing the little flitter thingy. So, um, and if I separate the cards in half, as I pull this one out and this one, now they're facing two different directions. So one was upside down, and now so by shuffling the cards, it alters the cards in uh, where they lay in the deck, which doesn't really matter to me and how I choose them. But being upside down or not, that seems to be why they asked me to shuffle the cards. Hey, how you doing? Is that you, Steph? There are certain kind of beans that don't make me fart. Now, I don't know why, and maybe in my older age, my digestive systems have changed and altered to the point where I just don't fart like I used to did. But cheap beans make you fart in a heartbeat, man. I mean, I'm about the time I get some of them beans down, I'll be already pooting. So anyway, so my if anybody's needing any special messages or whatever, I'm just doing random cards tonight. But so to the universe, I'm just asking, what do people need to pay attention to? What's spiritually, mentally, whatever. What's really something they, you know, give us a clue as to, like earlier with the dragonfly and I got this feeling on my left hand, right? So I'm like, it doesn't really feel like the card I'm supposed to pull, but let me show you. Okay. So I have shuffled these cards since I've been sitting here. There's Fox upside down, one of the cards I pulled earlier. Now I've shuffled these things, I've twisted them around, and this card just happened to pop up. you know, with my left hand, it's not my feel pull this card feel hand, but it tingled. So when I looked at it, I was like, son of a gun, it's upside down fox, like was I had earlier, which for me means this: the upside down fox and the camouflage is still very important to all of us, you know, that message. So to me, that's the upside down fox just as a what's this over here? Reminder, it's a backup, it's a reinforcer, you know. So I'm gonna just because of that little bitty event, I'm gonna shuffle again. I choose by letting them go over my fingers like this. And my right hand, it's usually my middle finger, my bird, is it? No, it's my, this finger next to my little finger. That is the sensitive one. So as I'm shuffling the cards across my fingers, there'll be one like this one right here. And there might be two or three kind of slung in there together, but let's see what this one is. So this one's a true one, and it's Buffalo, and that's a heavy duty card. So, and it's straight up. So Buffalo's got a message for us, and already I can tell it's a powerful one. Hey, Michelle. Yeah, kidney beans, absolutely. Well, this morning I wasn't feeling too good. I stayed out of the heat. Stay out of the heat, absolutely. And today I was going to go outside and do some stuff, and just I have to flitter in and out now because it's summertime. It's really got me kind of duggered and down, and because it's hotter. It's 95 degrees and the humidity's up, and I don't do well in the summertime. And all I want to do is bite nails, so to speak. But I opened up the computer earlier today to get ready for the storytelling tonight and so forth. And it was like, warning, extremely high UV today. Now we had thunderstorms in all the last couple of days and some clouds, but not high, extremely high UV today. And I was like, maybe I won't go outside. Okay. So, you know, check. It ain't the heat so much. Um, it is, but if we've got a high UV day going on, you need to get out of it. If you don't have to be in it, get out of it. I mean, if your job doesn't require that you be it, get out of it. Morning, Ning. Well, I'm have just decided to do. Somebody said that it's a tarot card reading day. And so I just decided I always do card readings with Robert V on his channel at the end of the storytelling thing. And so I don't have the connection tonight to like do personal readings, I don't think. So I'm just kind of asking the universe, hey, what's up? You know, what's up for us? Or, hmm, that's interesting. Okay. Ah, the lizard. Ah, the lizard is here. And along with porcupine. So maybe these cards that I'm pulling, Regen, I'm hoping these cards will relate to all y'all. But I just did what I consider a 3 card thingy, in that I have went through here and hey, hey Sheila, how are you this morning? Did y'all go fishing? The river's come up 2 foot since the rain down on the Ocklawney. And I think your Bubba said that he ain't never been down the road. And we should all go one day. You bring your boat however you do and put in, and me and Duggar will get in the kayak and we'll go paddling around. You can go boating and we'll paddle. But if you ain't never been down there, come on now. I've been begging people to go to the river with me now. Come on, neighbor. But anyway, so, but with the cards, you know, there are a lot of people who depend upon the cards. And I got to have a reading. I need to know what's going on, and I really was curious out there. And I was so dependent on when I got into tarot. I got into rune readings. I was pretty damn good at the rune readings and other different types of readings, psychic readings, meditation readings, sort of like, sort of like um, Edgar Casey, in that in my practices over the years, like when I did those tests with at the radio station with that other DJ lady, we verified 3 separate times with dates, times, and we verified it. So that means that I was able to be in my bed in Berlin and then physically walking to Tifton and being in Tifton at the same time. Um, so that's sort of crow medicine in a way. Had not looked at it that way, hadn't thought about crow or anything like that. I was practicing, um, astral projection while awake during the thing instead of. But anyway, so the proof for me is that it absolutely exists. And so, by knowing that this astral and the universe is there, I was constantly asking, what's next? And they finally said, would you stop asking? And I was like, but I want to know. Yeah, but you want to know every 20 minutes. And I was like, well, it was just yesterday. Yeah, but for us, that's like minutes. Okay. You got to stop this mess. You, there's a certain amount of time has to elapse from the last time you got a reading. That I'm talking about doing it myself, right? And runes, cards, whatever it was, and they just finally it was like they were just giving me literally the same over and over. Like I just fixed the fox card with this hand upside down again tonight. Reinforcement, or then I look at it now as reinforcement. Years ago, they would have begun. They were going. Good night to you too, Michelle. They were basically telling me, "We told you this before. Quit asking. Here's the message. Now you ain't listening. You ain't paying attention. Ah, okay. Off to heal. All right. Well, don't let the lightning hit you. Okay. And we'll send some. cough medicine your way. Pull the covers over your head and make you a little, anyway. Feel better, Michelle. And thank you. But so when I do these readings now, I'm just kind of, I can't really be in them. If I involve myself with what's the cards, or I need to know what the future is going to be, or I got to know, I can't do that. And so, but there are several, several of my friends who passed who were like that though. They were doing card readings every day, twice a day. I love you too, sweetie. Cosmic hugs. So, but so for this morning's early, late night um, reading for everybody, and which is interesting because when I did the readings earlier, when I was on Robert's show, all the cards were upside down. Now, when I felt the Fox card earlier in this draw, it was still upside, even though I've shuffled the cards back and forth. These three are all right side up. Now, I pulled the Buffalo card first, Porcupine, and Lizard. This ought to be an interesting read. So I'm going to start off with Buffalo, which is number 19 in the book. But Buffalo is very powerful medicine. Buffalo, you bring us the gifts of life. Here are prayers, smoke rising like the phoenix. We are reborn within the sacred words. Buffalo is prayer and abundance. In the Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo calf woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them to pray. The bowl of the pipe was the receptacle that held tobacco and herb with male and female medicine. The stem of the pipe represented the male entering the female and seeding life. In the coming together of male and female, the connection to the divine energy of the Great Spirit was made. As the pipe was loaded with tobacco, every family in nature was asked to enter into the pipe and share its medicine as prayer and praise to the heavens. The smoke was considered to be visual prayer and was very sacred and cleansing. All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, white buffalo is the most sacred. The appearance of white buffalo is a sign that prayers are being heard, that the sacred pipe is being honored, and that the promise of prophecy are being fulfilled. White buffalo signals a time of abundance and plenty. Buffalo was the major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians, gave meat for food, hides for clothing, warm and soft buffalo robes for long winters, and hooves for glue. The medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has already been received. So there are folks who are complaining they ain't got enough, but sometimes you need to pray for the things you do have because, like I said earlier, in World War II, my granny talked about how there was, all of the United States was on rations. If you didn't have your rations card, your book or whatever, you couldn't buy food. You had to have your thing. And so, and that, that's been less than 100 years ago. My grandma, almost in my lifetime. So, this idea of that things are bad and rough now, we ain't got the ration cards yet, just saying. So, the medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has already been received. Say thank you. That's all you got to do. It's not a long, drawn out prayer. thank you to the universe. Thank you and mean it. It ain't got to be to some God or anything with any kind of prayers or nothing. Just say thank you. It's that simple. Buffalo medicine is also knowing that abundance is present when all relations are honored as sacred and when gratitude is expressed to every living part of creation. Ow, that gum got a cramp again. Mm. So at the end of my prayers, sometimes at the end, I say to all of your relatives and to all of your relations. Now, relations represent to all things, rocks, trees, birds, everything, anything that you are related to, which is everything. And so when it says here, Buffalo medicine is also knowing that abundance is present when all relations, meaning everything, when all relations are honored as sacred. So when you get up in the morning, you go outside, regardless of it's raining or snowing or sun shining or whatever, you raise your arms and you say, thank you to the universe, to all of those things, to all of your relations. I'm related to the sun and the moon. I'm related to the trees and the birds and the ants and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the room up above and a thing called love. Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. Yep. Because of its desire to give the gifts that its body provided, and because of its willingness to be used on earth for the highest good before entering the hunting grounds of the spirit, buffalo did not readily stampede, nor did they run from hunters. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creatures, all nations, and all life. It means smoking for others so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as a part of that harmony. Now, for the last 3 hours, I've been talking about this, and here I go pulling a card that states it all in this as sort of as a prayer. If you have drawn the buffalo card, you may be asked to use your energy in prayer. You may also be called upon to be an instrument of someone else's answer to a prayer. This could portend a time of recognizing the sacredness of every walk of life, albeit different from your own. To honor another's pathway, even if it brings you sadness, is a part of the message that Buffalo brings. This may be a time of reconnection to the meaning of life and the value of peace. Most assuredly, this time will bring serenity amidst chaos if you pray in earnest for enlightenment and the power of calmness and give praise for the gifts you already have. It sounds so simple, and it is. Buffalo medicine is a sign that you achieve nothing without the aid of the Great Spirit, and that you must be humble enough to ask for that assistance and then be grateful for what you receive. And it doesn't have to be long drawn out. You just say thank you and mean it. So, buffalo is powerful medicine. Um, it says if you've drawn the buffalo card, you may be asked to use your energy in prayer. So just ask yourself, since this card is sort of for everybody, if this fits you, if there's anybody that you know that might need some prayer. But this one part up here is really important. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creatures, all nations, and all life. It means smoking for others, the peace pipe, so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as part of that harmony. Thank you, Buffalo. Now, the next one is porcupine. Now, for me, porcupine is supposed to be the Noll family crest. I have not been able to prove or disprove that, but what information we had a long time back, it was that. So, but the fact that porcupine showed up for me is like, well, okay. So, what I learned about porcupine before, not necessarily as a medicine card, but that porcupine, very simply, is not going to mess with you unless you mess with it. So, and in that, porcupine is innocence. Now, buffalo was great strength and prayer and abundance. And now, porcupine brings innocence into this message. Porcupine remind me of innocence again. With every man a brother, each woman a friend. So Buffalo's talking about, coming together with the male and the female and the great divine, the great spirit, the this the sacredness of it, and so that and that all animals are sacred. So in this, here's the innocence. The south of the medicine wheel is a place of childlike innocence and humility. It is the home of place of playfulness and the position of porcupine on the medicine wheel of life. Porcupine has many special qualities and a very powerful medicine, the power of faith and trust. So Buffalo just told us to be in prayer and abundance, and now Porcupine card is saying um, the power of faith and trust. So, what messages, I asked earlier, what messages need to be passed on to people right now? The power of faith and trust. The power of faith contains within it the ability to move mountains. The power of trust in life involves trusting that the Great Spirit does have a divine plan. Your task is to find the pathway that is most beneficial for you and that uses your greatest talents to further that plan of the Great Spirit. Trust can open doorways to the creation of space. Now, that's a cool statement. Trust can open doorways to the creation of space. The space thus created allows others to open their hearts to you and to share their gifts of love, joy, and companionship. If you were to observe porcupine, you would immediately notice its quills. These quills are only used when trust has been broken between porcupine and another creature, when the trust is broken. Much like otter, porcupine is a gentle, loving creature and non aggressive. When fear is not present, it is possible to feed a porcupine by hand and never gets stuck by its quills. Though understanding the basic nature of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and truth and faith, and for becoming like a child again. In today's society, this is a needed reminder to honor the wonder of life and the appreciation of each new day as an adventure for discovery. There's so many people these days that are bored to tears. And I'm like, what? There's so much that you can do or read or get in trouble doing or trying to read or whatever. It's like, how in the hell can you be bored? I mean, I don't get it, But every day is an adventure. Every day is its own journey. And depending on how old or young you are and what you do for a living or don't do or whatever, me being retired, but every day's an adventure. I might go to the river, tomorrow. Maybe I'll go, kayaking if it doesn't rain in the next day or two and the river stays up. Who knows? But every day is an adventure. Now, I have the choice because I'm retired now, but earlier on when I worked, I still had these choices. When I got off of work, I'd go fishing or whatever. So it wasn't like I couldn't do them. I still did them. It was just how I did them and, the opportunities and life forces, children, stuff. So with porcupine, the innocence of life and that it is innocent until somebody messes with it. But when fear is not present, meaning the porcupine don't fear nothing, it is possible to feed a porcupine by hand and never get stuck by its quills. Through understanding the basic nature of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and faith. And for becoming a child again, Porcupine sat silently looking at a hollow log. She wondered if it was a playhouse that nature had created for her, just for her. Porcupine envisioned all the things that she could do with that log. She could climb on top and make the log roll from side to side. She could go inside the log and see if there were any, any juicy worms or bugs to eat for dinner. She could always also scratch her back on the rough outer bark if she wanted to. Just as Porcupine was pondering what to do next, she saw Bear approaching. Now, Bear was big and black and looking for honey. Oh, another playmate to share my log, she thought to herself. Hello, Bear, she cooed. Do you want to play and share my log with me? Now, the gruff old bear, he just snorted. Porcupine, don't you know that I'm too old to play? You're in my way. I'm looking for honey. Now, go on away. Now, why, Bear, you never too old to play, she replied. If you forget what it was like to be a cub, you'll always be as impatient and gruff as you are now. Well, Bear began to think about what Porcupine had just said, and maybe she was right. All the other creatures had to run away from Bear in fright, even though even the other bears had turned their noses up when he growled at them. This little porcupine was certainly trusting him to not eat her. She even offered to be his friend. The old bear looked at Porcupine and began to feel something move inside of him, and it wasn't indigestion. He started to remember the games he had played as a cub. Joy started to live in him again. Little Porcupine, you have reminded me that in becoming strong and seeking answers, I got caught in trying to be an intellectual. I became afraid of what others might think if I dropped my mask of gruffness. I was afraid they wouldn't take me seriously anymore. You have taught me that in being a fuddy-duddy, I was causing them not to care for me. Thank you, little porcupine. I would love to play with this old log with you. And so it was that Bear became childlike again and learned the innocence of Porcupine. In choosing the Porcupine card, you have given yourself a gentle reminder not to get caught in the chaos, of the adult world where fear, greed, and suffering are commonplace. The medicine in this card is that of relief from seriousness and severity. Open your heart to those things that give you joy as a child. Remember the preciousness of fantasy and imagination and the making of some game or toy from nothing but scraps. Honor the playfulness of spirit that lets everyone win. Now, tied in with that buffalo card, that's some pretty heavy medicine right there. And, it's encouraging. I mean, hey, be like Porcupine, be innocent, go out and just have some fun. And how many times have I say, at least once every, time I do a video, just stay out of the chaos and reject it, you know? So, and they use the word chaos. Anyway, so for me, that's like, thank you. It's a helpful reminder for myself, as well as it's just good medicine for folks to, take heed. But with all the craziness going on, you got to take a deep breath and just laugh at something. So now Lizard is dreaming. Lizard, will you dream with me and travel across the stars? Beyond the place of time and space, there live visions from afar. Now Lizard is dreaming. Lizard sat lolling around in the shadow of a big rock, shading himself from the desert sun one day. Snake crawled by, looking for some shadow to coil up in and rest. Snake watched Lizard for a while as Lizard's eyeballs went side to side behind his enormous closed lids. Snake hissed to get Lizard's attention. Slowly, Lizard's dreaming eyes opened and he saw Snake. Ho, Snake, you scared me. What do you want? The lizard cried out. Snake spit his answer from his forked tongue. Lizard, you're always getting the best shadow. The best shadow spots in the heat of the day. This is the only big rock for miles. Why don't you share your shade with me? Lizard thought for a moment, then agreed. Why, Snake, you could share my shade spot, but you have to go to the other side of the rock and you must promise not to interrupt me. Now, Snake was getting a little bit of annoyed and he hissed, how could I bother you, Lizard? All you're doing is sleeping. Lizard smiled knowingly. Oh, Snake, you are such a silly serpent. I'm not sleeping. I'm dreaming. Snake wanted to know what the difference was, so Lizard explained. While Snake, dreaming is going into the future. And Snake, I go to where the future lives. You see, that is why I know you won't eat me today. I dreamed you, and I know you're full of a mouse. Snake was taken aback. Why, Lizard, you're exactly right. I wondered why you said you would share your rock. Lizard laughed to himself and he said, Snake, he said, you're looking for shade, and I'm looking for shadow. Shadow is where the dreams live. Lizard medicine is the shadow side of reality where your dreams are reviewed before you decide to manifest them physically. You get a preview of what's to come. Lizard could have created getting eaten by Snake if he had so desired. Lizard is a medicine of dreamers, whether dreamers smoke you or dream you. Dreamers can always help you see the shadow. The shadow can be your fears or your hopes or the very thing you are resisting, but it is always following you around like an obedient dog. If Lizard dreamed a space in your cards today, It may be a time to look and see what is following along behind you. Is it your fears, your future trying to catch up with you? Or is it that part of you that wants to ignore your weaknesses and your humanness? Lizard may be telling you to pay attention to your dreams and their symbols. Make a dream log and record all you can remember. Be sure to pay attention to each individual symbol or any reoccurring patterns, like numbers. If you do not remember your dreams, you could try setting an alarm clock, or you could try drinking water and make yourself wake up to see if you can wake up in a dream and remember it. But so for these three cards tonight, so Lizard, he's dreaming of what he's going to manifest, what's going to come into the future. You know, Buffalo, with its great message, is always wonderful. And Porcupine, the innocence of Porcupine. And there's so many people that are, and I'm trying to be polite, but they're crying in their beer. And, they can't get up for the mug, but, Buffalo is prayer and abundance. So the first card out tonight for this read is, to say thank you for what you've already seen with hopes that we'll keep getting it, and say thank you for what you've got, and quit worrying about what you ain't got yet. And Porcupine being the innocence, and then Lizard using the dream time to make sure you got everything right, kind of thing. So the six cards that I pulled tonight do seem to be important. Hey, David Castle, let's see. I don't have a monitor, but I will get rid of these things right away. So, what do the cards mean to you? You know, for me, they give me encouragement. As far as worrying about, the world's going to crumble and we're all going to die, and all this other kind of stuff. It, you know, folks need to just, continue to give thanks for what we do have, and um, and maybe, hey Roman, how are you? And not necessarily no UFOs there. I thought I saw one earlier outside, but we got partly cloudy skies, so I couldn't verify it. But if there's a message in the cards, they're telling, earlier on uh, Milky Way, when we were doing the stories and so forth, have faith in your core, faith, you know, the buffalo, abundance and prayer and faith. And wow, a lot of just have faith, trust yourself, porcupine, be innocent, and, and the Heyoki in a little bit of all of us, when things get too serious, we just got to stop and find something to laugh about, you know, life's too short. Um, like for example, in World War One, when there was so much death and dying in the trenches, there were reports of guys that would turn the radio up so either the Germans or the Americans could listen to the radio, you know, and it wasn't propaganda. They were playing music, Marlena Dietrich and whoever was on American radio, and they're separated by barbed wire and trenches. Times when and certain times during war and places where they quit fighting for on Christmas Eve, and they played soccer, and and the Germans are in some of the camps and things shared Christmas with the prisoners, just one day a year, and but so this idea that we may be at war with each other, or odds with each other, but when it comes right down to it, most of us still believe that we're of the human species, that we're still human beings. And some of them Nazi Aryan folks, they went a little crazy with some of their, we just want these people kind of thing. But you know, um, the Nazis were working on that, getting rid of most of the population. And between them and the Japanese, they didn't do a bad job of massacring a bunch of people dying in the process. And now, not to be rude, but I don't know how many people were on the planet before the start of World War II. Okay. But now think of all the millions of people who died in World War II on all sides. Okay. Not just one or the other, but all sides. So of them millions of people, fathers and mothers, and some children in there, you know. But so if the war had not been there and those millions of people had survived, what would the population of the planet be now? Okay, just stop and think about that. Because instead of 7 billion, there probably would be closer to 14 billion people on this planet if the war had not happened. Those people had not died, and by not dying, they would have made children and their children's children. And so the population wouldn't be 7 billion on the planet. It'd be a lot more. It'd be a lot more. So one could say, at the overall look at the planet Earth, was World War II necessary, quote, for a depopulation to start some things over? Now, what are these buttholes thinking this time around, right? So they started World War II, but they were big Nazis and this and that. Now they got to be more subtle because of information and everything being so instant. So you can bet these crazy people are going to try something again, but don't buy into it. Don't lose your shit. Keep your faith. Give thanks to the universe for what you do have and what ain't happened yet. So we're going to run out of wheat, maybe. Is it really the truth, or is there some other stores of stuff? Maybe. Um, don't buy into the crap until it happens. Don't overreact, where everybody's going to go buy up all the flour and this, that, and the other thing. And then there's going to be a run on. And then ain't nobody going to have other stuff because other folks are going to be hoarding. I'm just saying. So people need to be practical, and keep it cool. So, as far as voting goes, I still think the young turds have got it wrong. You know, the dumbest politician. And until these folks that want to pick on a black man who was an athlete at a good college in the United States, happens to be in Georgia, is running for senator, and that he got 777,000 votes last time I checked, and more. That he's the dumbest politician ever. I'm sorry. A lot of us voted for him. We didn't think he was dumb. We think if anybody had a chance, maybe it's somebody who hasn't been in the system, but is smart enough to be able to. I mean, if you're smart enough to play football and be able to play complicated plays and remember them and run them and do them and be strong enough to be able to fight the line and get the job done, make that touchdown, make those yardages, use all the football, whatever as you want to. But the fact that, you know, um, he's had to play politics as a football player. A lot of folks don't know that kind of mess. And so, it doesn't make him dumb or a dumb politician, but because he's a black man and a Republican, is pissing off them Democrats big time, or the progressives, or whoever the young turds think they are these days. They can't make up their mind. One minute, these folks are right about this, and the next they're bitching about the Democrats and how poor the Democrats are. Well, duh, vote for a Republican once in a while, and stand behind some of these other things. No, 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 no. We got to be progressive. Well, some of this progression is stupidity, and it's one sided. And, it's like, what? So, an hour after election results come in preliminary, they have determined that Herschel Walker, running for the United States Senate in the state of Georgia, is useless and the dumbest politician ever. Thank you, young turds, for your turdish opinion. Okay. Those of us in Georgia, we'll see. If he is that dumb, we'll pay for it. But we've had some idiots in there before who thought they knew what they were doing. So let's give this guy a shot. That's what I feel. And those of us who have talked about it, why not give Herschel a shot? Why not? But we've got this Warnock guy up there who's a pastor and a preacher and whatever and a reverend and blah blah blah, and they voted him in, so there's going to be a runoff. But so two black men in the state of Georgia that used to have, slavery, two black men are going to be are going to have a runoff race in June for the United States Senate. And they call us stupid and racist. They call us Southerners, you don't know what you're doing or talking about or whatever. Are you serious? We have there's a black woman on the Democratic Party running unopposed, who's Stacey Abrams, who's running for governor. The fact that they voted Kemp back in, I might vote for her. You know why? Because I've hated what he did, what Kemp did. Then so he might be surprised that Stacey Abrams, who I don't necessarily agree with some of her stuff, but can't be any more old school and good old boy crackdown than Kemp sitting up there, who literally turncoated on all of his Republicans and the state of Georgia. We are not happy, but they voted his ass back in. So, okay. So maybe I'll vote for Stacey Abrams, and maybe she'll be the first black governor of Georgia. I don't think we've had a female governor in Georgia, but I mean, first female and the first black. Wouldn't that piss off the Republicans? Which I voted Republican today after many years of voting Democrat. Ain't one of them in there I wanted to vote for. Not one of them. So, but anyway, so Herschel Walker is the dumbest politician, but somehow managed to get approximately 800,000 votes in the primary. Um, and that if he was the dumbest politician, how'd he get there? And when he was so much further ahead than everybody else, how'd he get there? He can't be too stupid. You know what I'm talking about? He can't be that dumb. Nobody else did it. Now, was it his name, Herschel Walker, University of Georgia, and all? Yeah, okay. But here's the thing: much rather give just a regular guy that ain't in some kind of high politics or highfalutin anything to go up there and maybe bring some common sense. We'll see. He's a common sense kind of guy and a normal kind of guy. Herschel is. So not these big wigs and big tea parties and all that kind of stuff on the veranda. But he's a person. He's a black man from Georgia, and that's all you got to say about that. So I'm going to vote for him instead of Warnock. But to have two black men running against each other in a southern state, come on now, we have made progress. That's all there is to it, you know. And there's no shooting going on. There are no burning crosses anywhere. You know what I'm saying? We're being civil about this. So, bitch, y'all want to, them folks about the United States is racist and all that, kiss my ass. And the United States hasn't made up or whatever, and the blacks don't have any opportunities. How come there are two black men running against each other for the United States Senate? I mean, come on, seriously, we have made progress, but some of these other folks would like to cram it down our throat, and that nope. Even though I voted for a black man today for senator, and I'm didn't vote as a Democrat after all these years, and that he's a Republican, and I voted for a Republican. An old white hippie man voted for a black man on the Republican ticket. For me, is like never done before. So it's a time for change. It's time for people to just drop barriers and forget about party lines or this or that. Who do you think has got enough chutzpah to go try to go up there and make sense of some of this stuff? We'll see. I love you all. I do. It's four. What? Let me put my broken glasses on again. 4:46 in the morning time. I missed 4:20. Holy crap. Well, catch up with me. I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, meaning trees, bugs, air, water, fire, all things are related. And I continue to pray that you will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And in that law of two, where it means Duggar and me going outside and saying our prayers when we take our walk every day, we continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And in that law of three that I just think is neat to me, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe, and that you all continue to reject the chaos that comes into your lives as best you can. And, use some common sense before you get too pissed off, because it will. So, for those of you, dear folks, that have spent time through the morning, David Castle, Michelle, I know she's already in bed, and Rejan and anybody else in the back, you ain't got to check in. Just, wave at the screen, and we love you. And have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. This is Tuesday. Actually, it's Wednesday morning. Not right. We got some more raining coming down here in the south, and could use the rivers could really use some water, and so could the gardens. So, um, wave to everybody out there. So, I love you all. Please be safe. And Gaza, how you doing? Good to see you pop in and send all them hearts out there. Like the title of this particular video, I'm just really pissed at them TYT folks to just have a little better couth, just a little bit, just a little bit of couth, you know, to just hammer down on this guy hours after, uh, you know, um, who's paying them to discredit this black man, you know? Um, They're picking on an underdog, a black man, a Republican, and they're doing exactly what they claim to other news outlets, that they're racist and that they are bigoted, and but they're doing the same thing. They are doing exactly the same thing. They're calling the, no offense, they're calling the kettle black, you know. So, but anyway, I love you all. Have a good morning. Lady Spitfire, if you're still back there, Gaza, Regen, good to see you. And I hope the cards that I pulled tonight made some sense to you. Makes really good sense to me, but you know, it wasn't my reading, it was our reading. So hopefully it did you some good and will let you think on some things. So until next time, you know, y'all pray we get a little bit more rain down here. Not quite enough, you know. But there are lots of other places that are flooding right now. A good night to you guys as well, okay? And good morning because it's almost 5 o'clock here. And, you know, after 2 hours on with Robert earlier, and I took a short break, and now I've been on here for four. So there's, you know, 6 good hours of on air time. So I love you all. Please be safe. And for God's sakes, you know, a couple of simple things. Give honor and grace to the universe. Just look up and say thank you. The next other thing is while you're saying thank you, there are gifts and things from the universe that you can receive. And be grateful for what you already have. And that it ain't no worse than it is at the moment. So if we keep, if folks keep praying and thinking we're all going to die, that's what they want. We need to be positive and smile and go, you know what? They want us to believe that we're all going to die. I got a choice in the matter. So thank you all. Be sweet, be kind, keep it between the ditches. TTFN for now, ta ta for now. Cheers, my dear friends. And the message I got this morning for you, Dante folks, is that he's got his head down at the moment, which they all need to do because it's a war and it's not a game. So be safe, keep praying for those on the front line, and, you know, cheers.